start streaming button and see if anything
auxiliaries.
works.
You got whatever you're eating out of the beard. You're okay.
I think did I? It's hard to say.
You did.
He's like second breakfast.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. It says okay. So excellent condition. It looks like it went ahead and started the stream for me. All right, I think we are good to go. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Tech Talk episode whatever the hell it is because I forgot.
Wait, did it work?
Yes, we are live right now.
Are you sure?
I don't know. It shows.
I don't mean to sound surprised, Barnacules, but
I know
really?
it never works. I know. This is amazing. Like I'm not.
Who can't they hear?
We got to write this down.
Are you confident enough for me to tweet out, or should we give you a few minutes?
Oh, yeah.
It looks good. Though I love how our view of this is all mixed up from what everybody else sees.
Oh, really? Oh, that's right. We should look at the actual.
Like,
because you guys are looking at the OBS.
I'm in the bottom left when I should be in the upper left, and Scotty's in the upper left where he should be in the upper right. And
I gotta read.
So when it loads the
Jerry's
scene,
in the
they're
wrong
different
corner.
orders?
Dave is the only one who's in the right spot.
Well, I'm an actor.
So he knows where he's supposed to be.
Group scene here. I'll put it in the Skype chat that we have. That's the group scene link. So if you want to see like all four of us like on one page live in real time, that should be the link to do it. That way you don't have to look at it in that weird like. I think when you join the stream, it doesn't show all four, does it?
I see everybody in the OBS Ninja room.
Oh, you do? Okay, it's just the order.
Yeah, I see everybody. Yeah,
okay,
the order's out of whack. That's all. It's just different on the YouTube.
So everybody in chat, can we get a confirm here? Is there any echoes? Is the video okay? Because this seems weird that this is just working because we kind of have a tradition here of having everything like echoes and delays and broken video.
Scotty totally screwed that up for us.
I don't know. Man.
Like, sorry, guys.
we literally have strange parts here, and he fixed our problems.
Yeah,
by doing nothing.
He fixed our strange parts. That's the
he did. Hey,
awesome.
Good morning, Miss Liz. Good to see a mod in chat. We love our moderators.
Miss Liz. Miss Liz has been dropping by on my stuff. She's like wonderful.
She is like everywhere on the internet. I'm convinced that she's not a real person. I think she's an AI. I think she is because she's watched my channel more than I have, and I literally stream the thing, so it's crazy. So if you guys haven't noticed, we have Scotty with us from Strange Parts. If you don't know who this guy is, he's probably sick of hearing this, but the way I found out about him is he put a damn like headphone jack back on an iPhone when I was protesting heavily against the removal of the headphone jack. And so I think everybody on Earth found that video. I'm pretty sure everybody on Earth has seen that video at least once, but he's also done a lot of other really crazy, obscure stuff that I don't think anybody else is doing. So Scotty, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit and add on to that and tell people where they can find you and all that stuff right off the bat.
Yeah, well, thanks for the warm welcome. I'm Scotty. I have a channel called Strange Parts here on YouTube, and I also stream on Twitch. And I would describe what I do. My background's a software engineer, and then I accidentally started a YouTube channel a few years ago. And I would describe what I do as sort of the intersection between adventure, technology, and travel. And so I've done a lot of videos all over the world, but in particular in China. I spent a few years in Shenzhen, kind of the heart of the electronics world, and so I've done a bunch of things with phones, building and modifying phones, and exploring the largest wholesale phone parts markets in the world there in Shenzhen. And then I've also spent a bunch of time exploring factories in China and elsewhere too. And really trying to explain in depth how the stuff in our lives is made. And so a lot of my content is, building and modifying electronics in weird ways, explaining how factories work, and then exploring industrial markets as well. So
your videos are really, really good. It your factory tours are awesome. Like,
thank you.
I mean, honestly, all your content's good. Like I've watched it all, but the things that, like the factory tours are cool because nobody really gets to see like what's happening behind the scenes except for it being exactly what they're shown. And I feel like you get almost an unprecedented level of access when you do these things.
Yeah, I push really hard with the factories to really kind of let me show everything.
Yeah, I can tell.
And really try and build some trust there of like, I'm not going to throw them under the bus, right? Like my goal isn't to make them look bad. But I'm also not going to like pull any punches either, right? Like I'm not going to hide their dirty laundry for them either.
And I feel like a lot of people that go in there, like when you watch like on news, like when you pull up the mainstream news, you see this, it's like they don't really let them in too far. It's always like, oh, this person is their head of HR and he's telling me a couple of things. Like, I like your tour because you're going through, you're like, hey, so we can't go in there? Well, what happens in there? Like, what happens in there?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't tell me? So can we go over there and look at that and see what that... And by the end of the thing, it's like you basically
I think that's only in
it.
one video are we not allowed... There's 1 or 2 videos where there were things we weren't allowed to go in to see and we talked through anyway. But I pushed really, really, really hard for full access.
And I think that's awesome. I also like your tours of, like when you go to the markets. Your market tours are awesome because before you did those, I had no idea that the electronics market there is like literally like the meat market in India or whatever. That like, I mean, it's literally just
it's like I'm going to a vegetable market. It's everybody's
bizarre.
at their little stall, and you kind of walk around and you compare quality and prices, and then eventually you like build a relationship with vendors. So that's your headphone jack guy, and that's your battery guy, and that's your screen guy, and or girl. It's about half in the markets.
We literally don't have anything like that at all here in the United States. Like
no,
even going to CES, like even going to like CES, which is like the mecca of electronics, it looks like nothing. Like if somebody that went to those markets in China like came here and went to CES, they would just scoff at it. They'd be like, this is the dumbest thing we've ever seen. Like, why don't you have like 8,000 booths piled into like a single bedroom apartment?
Well, I mean, to be clear, the folks in the markets would love to have more space and have more official looking spaces. And it's gradually converting to look more like CES, right? And so it's shifting from sort of selling individual parts to selling fully finished products. And that's, there are parts of the markets, and I tend to show them less because they're just less interesting. But there are parts of the markets that have fully converted to look like full retail spaces, and they're kind of doing a mixture of retail and wholesale. And it's, it's things like chargers and cables and, power banks and things like that. And there are a few spaces now that are like full legit, like they're big enough to be full shops, and they have a cash register and things like that.
Oh, gotcha. Actually, when I saw the first video, I think where you're walking through I think it was the big market in Shenzhen. It was like there was just bags piled to like the ceilings of electrical components, and you're like, there's like almost like no labels or anything. It's like the factory goes there to buy their stuff, and then they just like put it in a bag and go back to their factory and then build your phone and send it to you across the ocean. Whereas over here,
and that's 100% what used to happen, right? So a lot of those booths can be one of two things, right? They can be a representative for the factory that makes those things. So the factory will have an employee that sits in a booth that is their rep in the markets, right? And they'll have a certain amount of inventory in the markets, and then they can jump on the phone and call the factory to get more inventory, right? And then there'll usually be a warehouse that's kind of off the market proper that they can go and get kind of intermediate levels of stock. The other one is you just get brokers, right, in the markets who are reselling other people's stuff, right?
Oh, okay.
And
so a lot of people that are walking around the markets are like these brokers that are basically just like, are they like the intermediate shoppers?
That's true as well. But what I was saying is like actually the booths themselves will be a broker, right?
Gotcha.
So there'll be a middleman to a factory or something, right? And then there's a lot of like, a guy at a booth will have a relationship with another factory, right? He'll have his own factory for a very certain set of things, whatever he has machines to do. And then he has friends who are like, who have, like I bought a bunch of LEDs once, and the booth had like the LEDs they made, but they also had like his friends' LEDs sitting in the booth, which were of a different type. And it was only until I was like deep into the relationship and committed a lot of money that I realized he wasn't actually making them. His friend was making them. And that's super typical, super typical.
So he's selling his own LEDs, but then he doesn't make a certain type. So he's just stocking those from like his buddy.
Right,
wow.
Exactly.
Hey, why not? That's good.
And that's super common, super common. It's part of the power of Shenzhen and of Chinese industry in general is that everybody's like highly specialized. It's a lot of small businesses, and then they work very closely together. So they have a network that they work with, both as suppliers, but also as in those kind of symbiotic relationships of like, I'll sell your stuff, you sell my stuff, we'll refer customers to each other kind of thing.
That's really it reminds you of like Neuromancer or Blade Runner. It has like a
totally.
This
I think a lot of I think there's a good reason for that, because I think a lot of the design research that went into the sets that were built for those movies was done in like Hong Kong and Shenzhen.
Yeah.
And so I think now we've absorbed that notion of what sort of cyberpunk looks like and what like a post-apocalyptic future looks like. And unknowingly, we've absorbed what Hong Kong looks like.
Right.
It's interesting too to think that like that sort of like hyper real sort of semi future is going to feed that sort of like I guess stereotype is going to feed into what the real future is going to be like. Because I totally believe that we are heading in that sort of direction where we're going to have that sort of, like you said, like Hong Kong, and that sort of Chinese influence is going to kind of wiggle its way into society across the world and going on into the future, like Firefly, where like there's Mandarin kind of sprinkled in with English and things like that. Yeah. I totally believe that is the future. The Chinese are going to take over the economic heavyweight. Totally.
Well, I mean, it has to happen, right? There's
1.4 billion people living in China, and they all speak Mandarin.
That's it.
So, like, you know, the fact that we don't already all learn Mandarin in school is a little bit mind-boggling.
I've been saying that since high school, that like if you're going to take a foreign language, it should be Mandarin.
Yeah.
So, Scotty, here's a question for you. Can you actually speak Mandarin at all after being over there for so long?
I can speak a little bit.
Oh, David, I think your mic's dead, dude.
Well,
I can speak like enough to get by, but not enough to carry on a real conversation.
I can get food and a bathroom and alcohol.
Yeah, a little bit more than that. Like I can bargain in the markets. You know, I could say
language, or are they pretty much
the
on
opposite?
The street? Really?
It's the opposite. So
because you're somewhere, they give you like a better deal.
Yeah. There's a fair amount of white privilege in China.
What?
Yeah.
So okay, I got to hear about this because I know nothing.
Okay. So there's a couple reasons for that. So one is that, particularly in the markets, but also in factories, there is a common notion that foreigners are like wealthy business owners who are there to do big deals. Because traditionally that was true, right? You showed up, you came to, you know, the guys that were going to China to meet with factories and to wander the markets were the guys that were there to do big manufacturing runs. Mm-hmm. And so everybody wants to be friends with them in hopes of doing their manufacturing, being their contract manufacturer.
Okay, that makes sense, actually.
I've heard similar. My boss, my 9-to-5 big boss, the president of the company, went to where did they do Computex Taiwan?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He'd gone to Computex, but while there, also toured a few PC case manufacturing plants, I guess, or the factories, and that he came back with a similar story of like they treated him super well because they assumed that he was there to do big business, even though we're like a tiny company.
Yeah, hey, David, do we got you back on mic now?
I think so. Is that right?
There you are.
There you're back.
I just have to keep refreshing it. It's like it just.
Are you still? You better not still be on that Mac. Are you on that trash Mac, David? We've talked about this. You can't.
All of the laptops are scattered around my house right now. Like there's just been too many freaking things going on.
David's almost as lazy as I am because every week I'm like, man, I'm gonna fix the stream and everything's gonna be great.
It's not lazy. It's that I keep having to move things, right? So I have to keep moving computers upstairs for this or that, or go to set.
You could at least boot camp the Mac.
Come on,
and
David.
you'd probably solve a lot.
I could boot camp. That's true. I hadn't thought of that. Although it's so shit at running Mac, I don't know why I'd be any better at running.
I ran Windows 10 on my MacBook Pro for like 5 years. Never went into Mac OS, and it was perfect.
I'm very close to just like giving in and buying just another little laptop to keep me going.
My favorite laptop I ever owned was a MacBook Pro 17-inch, like the old ones that used to cut from like the solid block.
I love that beast. Yeah.
God, and it had
the ones that were like the size of a table.
Oh, it was massive, dude. It was absolutely massive. I mean, it wasn't like the new gaming laptops where it's like the MSI laptop where it's like 4 inches thick. It was like really thin, but it was like, I mean, it was big, obviously, having the 17.
And it weighed a ton.
And the cool thing is I bought it for, I want to say $3,200, which was pretty ridiculous for a laptop. I mean, you could get something with the same specs for 800 or 1,000 cheaper if you went with a PC, like if I had got like an MSI gaming laptop or something. But I wanted to get this because they had amazing screens back then. So I got it. I owned that thing from 2011 to I think 2017, and I sold it for $1,500. Name another electronic device that you had for that period of time and got back 50% of the value.
Retained that value,
it's like the turtlenecks want that stuff so bad, and they stopped making the 17-inch. So this dude literally, meets meets me at a Starbucks, and I mean, he was like foaming at the mouth, ready to give me this $1,500 in cash because he wanted this thing so bad. And I'm like, dude, it's like the battery barely works in it. I mean, it holds a charge for like 20 minutes. And
Yeah,
the dude's like, I don't care.
I remember the
You can
battery
swap all that
buckling.
stuff out, though.
Yep. What's that, Dave?
I remember the battery buckling on mine.
Oh, really?
Like,
Yeah, it
pillowing up.
actually started bending outwards.
Oh my
A
gosh.
lot of
that
the old
actually-
Macs did that.
Yeah, I think that they had that happen with one of the revisions of the Razer laptop. Because the Razer laptop, like I have one, I have a Razer Blade Pro. It's the reason that I wanted it so bad is it literally looks and feels just like the MacBook from 2011. It's all billet cut. They basically just took like the blueprints from it and made their own, all the way down to the keys.
Right.
And I love it, and it's built really good. But there was one year where they were putting batteries in them that when the batteries were overheating, they were swelling. And it would push, it would literally, even though it was a billet piece of aluminum, it was like pushing the keyboard up. Like, and bending the electronics to put, it was trying to squeeze itself out like
terrifying.
toothpaste. Oh my God, it's terrible. So
It's
Go ahead.
bizarre though. Like we're paying the same amount for phones now as we are for the laptops. So that's what I can't get over.
Yeah, I don't get the whole
They're just about as
$1,500
powerful,
phone.
though.
What's that, Ox?
They're just about as powerful though. Like, especially when you can, like, I have a Samsung. I can plug this directly into my PC, or if I really wanted to, just like an external monitor, like a portable monitor, and have a full, powerful laptop experience. I can do everything from photo and, video
how
editing.
often do you do that, Ox?
Never.
I'm saying I
Never.
not when I have a PC that is 500 times more powerful, but I actually do quite a bit of photo editing just on my phone.
I'm doing more and
like,
more on the phone now.
They
Product
can't
photography
fit
and stuff.
that in a phone yet. Like when they can fit that in a phone,
You want to
then I'll
try
be
and
interested.
get out of here. Hang on just a second, buddy.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Showdown.
Trying to flex your boxes, huh? Here, what's that one say?
It says you got an empty box from work that doesn't have an actual card in it.
Your box.
Yeah,
I bet your box is
sticker
empty too.
maker.
Open it. Show me the card.
I bet your box is empty too.
David's holding up a label maker.
Yeah, I can make labels whenever the fuck I want.
Okay.
All right, Scotty, you ready to bring a gun to a knife fight here? Come on, you got to have something interesting there.
How about, where's your Maxwell Titan? Huh?
Oh,
Where's
Maxwell
your
Titan? Hey,
Yeah.
hey, do you want to play? Do you want to play?
Show off some scopes.
Do you want to play? Oh, you got to. Oh,
Oh,
is that a key site?
nice.
That's a key site, isn't it?
Oh, that's
It is a
that's-
key site.
Oh,
I
It
think
turns out
Scotty wins.
Keysight likes me
I got to
and
ask you a
insisted
question.
on outfitting my shop.
Did you get in touch with Keysight, or did they get in touch with you? And
They tracked me down.
really, yeah, because I noticed
They
that
tracked
they're
me down at
also-
a conference and were like, "Tell us when you're building out a shop. We want to give you gear."
Gosh, those things are not cheap. Those scopes.
No.
Like, what does it cost for one of
No.
those? Like, if I wanted to buy one retail, what does it cost? Are you
Action
okay,
figure.
we just got owned,
The-
guys. We just got owned. David's literally holding up his own sealed action figure.
Where's your fucking action figure?
Okay, we've been owned. We've been owned. This is
Game,
the
set,
closest I got.
match.
Yeah.
I 3D printed myself. That's the
Oh, that's
I don't
closest
think
good.
I have
That's good.
anything that looks like me.
Hey, does it count as an action figure if you sold one on the internet to a stranger?
I would say.
Because I did sell one of these
It's
for
a-
like
I
$300.
call
It's a
mine
back
niche
then.
niche
action
action
figure.
figure at that point, Jerry.
Yeah, I call mine the inaction figure. Yeah.
That's awesome.
You know what's sad is David's so washed up, he has to keep that sealed so he can sell it on eBay to put his kids through
Yeah,
college.
that's my retirement fund.
I feel you,
My
bro.
retirement fund right there.
You're gonna be out on the street or whatever, and holding up this action figure, like, bro, give
Son,
sell this for
you're
$2,000.
going to
They're gonna be
college.
like, you look a lot like that guy. No, no, I don't.
You
Hey,
look like the dad of that guy from Stargate.
David, did you see the tweet that I made yesterday to Michael Shanks?
What did you do? What did you
We
do?
were trying to sell you out. We were going back and forth, and we're like, we need to replace David because like David's kind of washed up, so we need to like move up in the world. So we were like, I was like, I wonder if Michael Shanks is
Go to
free.
Shanks.
And I
Yeah.
tagged
Get
him.
Amanda Tapping in here. Ah, the pooch.
Yeah, he's decided he's a lapdog, which
That's a big lap dog.
yeah, it's oh, the monitor's in the way.
Wait, what kind of dog
Yeah,
is he? I
he's-
don't recognize the breed. Is he mutt?
Well, I don't either. He's some sort of mutt from the Humane Society,
Aww.
but he's a
The
good-looking
staff
dog.
mix, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's probably got some pit bull in him just based on the shape of his face. You know,
That's
stuff yawning.
hilarious. Hey, Ox, does your dog just jump up in your lap like that?
No, she doesn't like to jump.
That's
I have
weird because that's a big dog to just be like, hey, that lap looks comfortable. I'm gonna go jump
Yeah.
on it. Like, wow.
He only really started doing it in the past couple months, and he puts his front legs up, and then he gradually, slowly climbs up with his back legs.
Yeah.
And,
That is adorable.
yeah.
Mine has just started talking, and it's endless. Like if there's any food anywhere in the house that he thinks or she thinks we might have ignored, you just start hearing this little whine, and then there's like, and then it just turns full on barking. So,
it's like they're just trying to decipher the language. Like, what noise do I have to make to get that hot dog? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Have you seen those dogs that'll like push the talking buttons?
Yes.
And it's legit. Like they're smart enough. I've always said like my dog was basically like a 3-year-old. She could she's smart enough to know, but still kind of dumb. And it blows me away that how well those dogs like can communicate with these buttons. It blows my mind. So cool.
Yeah, I feel left out. I should go get my
cat. Would just eat it.
I'd go get my cat, but it would just tear me a new ass on camera and then hiss at me and run away. Like, but ironically, that's why I like cats. Like, I'd get a dog, but it's like dogs need attention. If you leave a dog alone for like more than a half an hour, they literally kill themselves. Like, they need attention so bad. Cats, on the other hand, are the opposite. Cats are like, you could literally just leave the house and not feel bad for like a month and come back and you open the door and they just look at you like, what? Like, oh
yeah, and they've shit all over your bed.
They don't care. Like they will eat anything. I like cats because they're like opportunists. They'll chew through a cabinet. They will burrow under a door, whatever it takes to get their meal. They'll do, so you don't really have to worry about them. You know, it's like dogs on the other hand, though, they just get like wicked depressed. I remember that when I had dogs growing up, it's like if you went camping or something like that, even just for like a night, and you come back the next day, the dog would just be sitting there like, oh my God, kill me. The world has ended. And
I thought you left
like,
forever.
Oh, yeah. But I do miss the affection. Like that's the one thing you don't get from a cat that you get from a dog is that level of affection where it's like you can tell that they're not just doing it for food. Like my cat will come and, butter me up if it needs like, shit out of its box or it needs a treat or something. But dogs will like legit just want to be around you and they like want your praise. And you can tell like if they do something bad and you're like bad dog, the way that they like look away and their emotions, like you can tell they're really like a part of the family. Whereas cats are just looking at you, cat, you son of a bitch, you chewed on my headphones, which they did, by the way. And the cat just looks at you like, you talking to me? Like, really? Like, you talking to me?
Yeah,
like,
Huzzah's part cat, I think. She's got a certain aloofness to her that, yeah, I think there may be a part. I mean, she's a mix of everything anyways, so I imagine there might be some cat in there.
Is she still eating all the cables?
Oh, she's ridiculous.
Look at this.
I mean, she's just, yeah. Oh, look at that.
Begging.
What do you want?
Hey,
I want to be a me.
I have something to say. I want to be on the show.
I want to be on the show. Come on. I want to be on the
Oh, you got the worst breath.
Well, the dog is probably thinking that poor human is just talking to that piece of glass. He must be so lonely.
Yeah, the dog's like, what am I missing out on here? You know what's sad is
I think he's often very confused. Okay, that's enough.
Scotty, you can literally go create a TikTok with that dog and it would get more views than you in like 48 hours.
It's probably true.
And that's why I'm sad about this world that we live in.
It's probably true.
It's like,
I know.
People just get so into like the animal videos.
You know what?
Are you doing TikTok? I haven't taken the plunge on that.
Of course I'm doing TikTok. Of course.
Are you
doing TikTok?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, how else are you going to
out.
access like the 11 to 13-year-old demographic?
Not just
you
that.
have to use TikTok.
Not just that though, like there's some really good, like everybody gives it shit, just like they did when Instagram was new. Like, oh, everybody's just taking pictures of their lunch and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I got so sick of that. Yeah.
TikTok is a good source of like bite-sized content. Like there's some really good creative, like some of it's the dancing and cool transitions and stuff, but like there's some really good educational content out there. There's some really good,
is there?
Like just generally like comedy, like stand-up stuff is blow. It's really good stuff.
It's really good.
Don't
you have to send me some people to follow because I mean my son just watches just crap. It's just
my wife sits on it nonstop, like nonstop.
Yeah, the kids. I mean, but it's the content they want to consume, right? They think my shit's boring. So
I banned it. We're not. He's not the kid's not allowed to TikTok anymore.
It's probably for the best if you had Tide Pods in the house. Like,
I have to kick my little one, the 10-year-old. I have my router set up to cut her Wi-Fi from all of her devices at 11 o'clock, or she'll stay up till like 3.
Yeah, but watch out because the next thing you know is you get a giant fucking cell phone bill, which is what happened to us. I cut him off. He just kept watching, only on cell phone coverage.
I got busted, guys. Miss Barnacules over here in the chat. I didn't realize she was watching the show.
Oops.
I got busted for outing her TikTok addiction.
Oh man,
TikTok. My problem is the Instagram ads. I want to buy every freaking Instagram ad that, like, I'm never on Instagram, but when I'm there, I end up on like every single advertising site that there is.
Dude, we should talk
so
about marketing.
Perfectly targeted.
Like the marketing shit that happens online is getting like scary good. Like to the point where even though I know I'm being manipulated, I still fall for it about 10% of the time because it's just the timing is too brilliant. Like I'll be on Twitch and I'll be talking about something for like an hour. And then like a half an hour after the stream, I'll go to Facebook and I start getting targeted ads for shit that I was talking about because they're doing the speech to text and then the text is being analyzed. Amazon owns Twitch. So then they line up all the products based on what you were talking about using all the AI shit. And then they sell that information over to Facebook or, and buy ad space on Facebook. And the next thing you know, you're getting ads for Amazon. It's like, I'm sitting there talking like, oh man, I really like this ad, this phone and this is great and this accessory. And so you go to Facebook, and it's like every ad is like some competing product to what I was talking about. It's crazy how good it is.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. And the thing is too, is that a lot of these ads on Facebook will be for these Chinese companies where it's like, oh, this thing's so cheap. It's only like $3, buy it. And then you go buy it and it takes like 3 months to get to you. And then it's absolute garbage. Like I've fallen for that for like three times now where I was like, oh man, this cup looks really cool. And I buy like a cup and it shows up in the graphics like cocked sideways and like halfway blurred out. Or I bought a mask. You guys remember my scrotum mask?
Oh God, yeah. No, it's fine.
That was great. That was great.
That was good, but in person it doesn't look good. Like the way they lined up the graphic when they sewed the material, it's like all off, but in the picture it's like flawless. Like the picture, it's literally like when you see a fast food commercial and you go get the real burger and it's all smashed.
Oh right, yeah.
But you can't not buy it because you're like, oh man, I was just talking about how funny it would be if this existed. And not only did they figure out that it existed, they knew exactly when and where to market it to me so that I'd click on it.
Oh yeah,
it's wild.
On the one hand, I'm fascinated by the like predictive models that they have for that sort of thing. Like one of my favorite examples is years and years ago, Target, the store, actually got in really big trouble for
targeting
for their targeted advertisement.
I know what you're talking about.
They were so good at analyzing people's shopping patterns that they were able to predict people's pregnancies before they even knew about it.
I remember this. Yeah, I remember that.
And they got in trouble for predicting that a 16-year-old was pregnant.
I remember that. They were like getting in trouble.
Because the father went into the store, contacted corporate or something, and was like, how dare you market pregnancy products to my 16-year-old girl? Of course she's not pregnant. And then of course she turned out to be pregnant later.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's funny. MD Hofsey in the chat says he learned that story in cyber defense. I learned about it in a marketing book. But it's still, it blows my mind. And personally, I like targeted advertisement. I think that whatever data that they're using to get those ads to me is beneficial on both sides of the relationship.
Yeah,
I'm more likely to buy a product that I genuinely am interested in rather than just blanketing me with a bunch of crap that I don't care about. Like, why am I seeing tampon ads on Twitch? I'm not going to buy that.
I don't know, Ox. Why are you?
Yeah, exactly. They're analyzing what you're looking at. So
because Amazon's targeted advertisement is garbage. They'll try and sell you stuff you've already purchased. They don't.
I've never understood that.
And so,
while you're looking at these, why don't you look at them again?
Yeah, like, hey, we noticed you bought this mouse. Do you want to buy it again?
Yeah.
No. Actually, some of the best targeted advertisement, I think this is like the digital equivalent of like when you go to the store and they have the stuff right before checkout, like on the stand, like those last minute cheap items, is like when you go on Amazon, you buy something, it's like other people bought this combination. And it always does that when you click it. And I find myself that a lot of the times I'll go add something because I just forget, like I wasn't thinking. Like I'll buy like a USB battery pack and it'll say, oh, other people also bought this braided USB cable, that's only $3.95 or whatever. And it's like, oh, and they just make it easy to push add to cart and it just adds all those items at once. I
started wondering, I read a book called Surveillance Capitalism, which I absolutely loved. I mean, it's a slog. It is not a, I'm too stupid for it, but I enjoyed it, but it got me thinking because she starts talking about the fact that they're beyond predicting what we want. They are now focusing on just getting us to do things. Sure. It's more about controlling the population now than it is about actually just trying to guess what they're doing.
That's true. That's true. It's not about what you need. It's making you need it.
Well, and I suddenly went, well, wait a second. Okay, so what my love of like robotics and computers and PC builds and mushroom cultivation or whatever, is that really me? Or is that what I've been fed and have become interested in because of what I've been fed, and they can go, oh, great, okay, so we've got to get into mushrooms and robots, and you know what I mean?
Hey, Scotty, your saturation there went up a little bit there. You got a makeup sponsor or something?
But I
did that? Did I?
Yeah, you're so red right now, dude. Like your saturation of your face like went through the roof. Is anybody else seeing that?
But no, it's only on the stream.
Whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, it's only on the stream. It's not on. It's not on our.
It just stopped. It
it looks
weird.
Yeah,
it was like your whole face was like glowing like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, man. It was wild. Like it was neon.
He went radioactive, man.
He did.
Weird.
Somebody was selling him some
maybe I should
powder.
Turn on the stream. I'm not actually looking. I'm looking at OBS or at OBS Ninja.
Oh yeah, no, I would just look at OBS
because we're seeing it looks fine here.
Weird.
It's just for some reason it's getting to the stream. That's gone.
Huh.
That is so bizarre. Everybody's saying I'm undersaturated. I know. I forgot to adjust my camera before we started. And it's not letting me adjust it because I'm going in through OBS Ninja and they don't have an adjustment or filters, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So if I had a filter,
so you got to run 2 instances of OBS. Yep. Your pre-OBS Ninja OBS and your post-OBS Ninja OBS.
So I just stack them. Just have this unlimited stack of all different instances.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I mean, I got to use that 128 gigs of RAM for something, right? You know.
You got it. You got it, man.
Hey, Scotty, when do you think you're going to be able to travel again? Do you have any indication of that? Any ideas?
It's a good question.
What is China's rules on this stuff?
Well, so right now, China is saying we are not honoring any visas that were issued prior to March of last year, whenever their cutoff was for the start of the pandemic.
And what kind of visas do you get when you go there? Is it a tourist visa or?
I'm on a business visa.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
However, you can go get a new visa from an embassy, from a Chinese embassy, if you can prove that it's essential travel. And part of that can be essential business travel. Yeah. And so it's not clear what the criteria is for that. I try not to push. I try and go through the middle of the road Chinese visa processes as much as I can, because of what I'm doing there. I try not to rustle any feathers. I don't want to stand out. I am just a dumb guy with a camera who's there on business.
Is bribery part of the culture over there?
What's that?
Is bribery part of the culture over there? Can you just slip in a little hundo, a little Benjamin here and there, kind of speed things along?
Yes and no. It is still a thing at a local level, but not at the visa level.
Oh, okay.
I don't think.
Who's going to be essential to?
I don't want to get mixed up in that because it's
or them.
What's that?
For when they say an essential visa, does it just have to be essential to you, your business? Do you have to prove this essential to your business, or does it have to be beneficial to them and only them?
I think it more has to be beneficial to China.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. But it's one of those things of you go to the criteria page and it just says essential business travel, right? And so then you have to sort of figure out what that means.
And you can't write promoting Chinese, resources and whatever.
Throw the YouTube channel card, dude. I used to do that all the time. Come on, man.
No, that's not how that works.
No, not at all. And so I guess you wouldn't be able to go in on a tourist visa now, anyways. At this point, it has to be business related.
All you have to do is tell me you're the good type of YouTuber. Just tell me you're not
12 or
Serpent
15
Z. If you're Serpent Z, they're not going to let you back in, obviously. But have you ever seen that guy's channel? Oh my god!
I try and fly under the radar as much as I can, and just not rustle any feathers. I mean, it's a little dicey what I do. It's a fair bit dicey what I do.
Oh, I'd imagine.
Why? What's dicey about it from their perspective? What are they concerned about?
So they're concerned about controlling the narrative about China, both inside China and outside of China. Right. And so I think one of the things they wouldn't want is for someone to become very popular about China and then use that. In particular, they're worried about people using that to start a revolution. Right.
Right.
So,
interesting. Okay.
So, and you can, I mean, I know we're talking probably mostly to a Western audience right now and mostly an American audience that will be very much on the side of free speech, and you absolutely should have the right to overthrow your government if it is not working for you. It's not the Chinese perspective, right? The Chinese perspective is far more about stability. What's that?
Or the American right now, for that matter.
Yes, fair enough. Fair enough, absolutely.
It's a lie. It's all a lie. It's an illusion.
The Chinese attitude is far more like, let's have stability, right? They've had such economic growth over the past 20 years, right? So the number that I always refer back to that to me explains like the majority of what's happening in China and around China is that from 2000 to 2015, 65% of the Chinese population moved from lower class to middle class.
Wow.
And the bar is more than 50% of their income is disposable. They can spend it on whatever they want. They're not spending it on clothing, housing, food, that kind of thing. So you basically have this huge, massive upward shift in society in a very, very small amount of time, right? And that came through, a lot of that came through China becoming the powerhouse of manufacturing, right? And us shifting all of our manufacturing over to China. And so because of that, like nobody wants to like rock the boat, right? It's all boats rise together right now. If everybody is coming out of poverty, right? Everybody's coming off the farm, right? And living in very substandard housing to like living in a city, having a proper apartment, and there's a huge Chinese government push to move people into apartments in cities, and out of the farms. And like everybody is, essentially attaining wealth in one lifetime, right? Their parents were poor farmers. They are now, working in a factory, and can, essentially buy whatever they want. They have smartphones, whatever. And so there very much is an opinion, not just the government that obviously wants things to be stable and they want to stay in power, but also just among average Chinese people that says, hey, like, I want this whole thing to continue, and I don't want anybody to rock the boat here and screw it up for all of us.
And they're willing to trade those freedoms for an improved life. Yeah.
Plus, it's gotta be a little
as long
dicey.
as the economic growth continues. If the economic growth doesn't continue, China, the CCP will lose control of the population.
I guess there's always a fear with you being over there too, that like if stuff politically isn't going good, like what happens to you, right? Like if you're stuck over on that side of the fence, like I think that's really a risk you take going anywhere. Like, if the climate's changing, but like if things start getting dicey, like the whole, sanctions situation and trade wars and things like that, I'd imagine that starts to become a little bit of a tricky situation for you being over there, especially like, does the view change of like the people around you, or are they still, like you said, very happy that you're there and doing stuff? Or are they pissed off at you now because you're an American
more
national?
The risk, I think, than like the government perspective.
Okay.
I mean, maybe they would use me as a pawn in some kind of thing.
We've got two Canadians there now.
About that.
We've got two Canadians there now because of a decision made by our system here to keep the Huawei head of Huawei or something?
Sure.
Okay.
So there's two Canadians who are, I guess, contractors out there who are not allowed to leave now. So
I keep my eye on that stuff. I don't think I'm the best pawn for that kind of thing.
Come on, you'd be a fantastic pawn.
We got a YouTuber. You're not getting him back. We got him, man. You're never going to get that ad revenue taxes ever again.
I think they'd much rather grab a high-profile business person.
Yeah,
it seems than they would rather grab me. Yeah. My threat scenario is more that they would just kick me out, and not let me back. So.
But you do want to go back, right? Just so everybody's clear. Like
absolutely.
The goal is to go back to China once everything clears up.
Absolutely.
Cool.
I sort of have.
That was weird.
I really think that there's too much like divisiveness between China and the US. And there's too much divisiveness in the world right now. And so one of the underlying motivations for me doing what I'm doing is to really show people what China's actually like. Because we have all of these biases that the Western media likes to prey on, of like, oh, all factories in China are terrible, sweatshops that are, creating horrible working conditions for their workers. And that might have been true at one time, but it's not really very true anymore. I've been in very few factories that look like terrible places to work. And, you know, there's this attitude of like, oh, you know, Chinese people, like, you know, they can't say anything and they're ignorant about the outside world. Like, that's not true either. And like, there's all these things. Or like, China's dirty and filthy and a third world country. And like, that's not true. And so I really feel like there's this, that I can actually create a positive change in the world by showing both how China actually is and letting people see it through my eyes as someone who spent a bunch of time there, but also, and see it for themselves, right? And not overly try and spin a story one way or the other, other than there's cool stuff happening in China, right? That's the biggest bias I have, is they're doing cool stuff, and you know, it's fascinating.
I feel like the overall population, and much like the US is probably like symptom of this, is the overall Chinese population is judged by like the decisions and actions of their government.
And I think people don't separate those enough. Right? They assume that they're one and the same, and they're not.
Yeah, because like I feel like even the U.S., right? Like people outside the United States see, oh, the U.S. just a big bully of the world, and all the American people are just guns and cheeseburgers. And when I feel like the general population are just everybody mostly are just good folk who are trying to like live their lives. Like they can't really have the problems of government are too large for the individuals to really have a big sway on things. And most folk are just decent people who are pretty okay.
Absolutely. And are really not that different from us.
Yeah.
Right? You know, they you know, they care about their families. They want to build a business. You know, they want to rise up in the world, right? They want to improve their lot in life. You know, like, I
mean, there's a lot of hypocrisy in the world, and I think a lot of that's driven just by like what we all see, right? The stereotypes that the media puts forward. You know, because it gets the views, right? The drama gets the views, and look at them looking at us. Like China has to look at us and be like, "Oh my God, can you believe these freaking Americans?" And like, have you ever been to Detroit, like the bad time of the year? You know, have you almost been stabbed in Chicago? I mean, I have. So it's like there are bad places and good places. There are bad people and good people. I think that's a common theme throughout the world, like regardless where you are. But people tend to focus on the negativity because that's where the views come from. That's where the drama.
And reporters are lazy. So the other thing, the other mental model I use is reporters like coming up with a new storyline that your audience doesn't know, and figuring that out is a lot of work.
That's true.
Right? It's much easier to find the existing storyline that other reporters have. You got it.
Just milk it to death. And that's what they do.
And so they go and find, you know, what are the stories about China? Factories are terrible sweatshops. There's piles of garbage everywhere. They're a third world country. They're poor, right? Like there's all of these narratives that we already know. And so the easiest thing, if you're a journalist who's, you know, coming into China for the first time or whatever, or you got to get an article out or whatever, is to just find one of those narratives and then go and look for supporting information that backs up that story. And so you see this stuff, like I've seen articles, particularly about Foxconn, you know, the whole Foxconn narrative of all of the workers are jumping out of windows, right? Like and how horrible working conditions Foxconn are. If you look at the articles that are coming out now about that, they're scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to find evidence that Foxconn is still a bad place to work. And like, I don't know, you know, I've not been inside a Foxconn plant, you know, but everything that I've heard sort of anecdotally from people who have and stuff is like, yeah, like it's not perfect, but they're pretty decent places.
Well, and what are the suicide rates in North America? I mean, that's right. We've got
someone pointed out
it's terrible here. Like even at Microsoft, we had suicides at Microsoft. Like one of the best working condition. You know, it's just stress. Stress gets to people, right? Especially financial stress. It drives people completely over the edge, right? Like Wall Street. Everybody's like, oh, they're jumping out of the windows of Foxconn. What about Wall Street, right? Like every time there's a huge market crash, there's like they're talking people off a ledge, right?
So the Foxconn plant that had problems with suicides that was so called out in the media has 450,000 people that work at it.
Oh my God. Wow.
So the suicide rate, I think even during the height of when that was in the press, per capita was lower than your average college campus in the US.
Oh, that's wild.
So it's important to put this all in perspective and be like, yes,
And people miss that.
It is terrible that people are jumping out of windows at factories. That is awful. And absolutely Foxconn should work to change that.
Yeah.
And suicides happen, and
or the opioid crisis, another thing as well, where you just go, oh my God, like the sheer numbers of people, especially there's been a huge problem here with it as well, right?
Oh, massive. Where I live here down in Seattle.
I'm up in Canada, by the way, Scotty. Yeah.
So it's another thing too is like slums, right? Like people talk about the slums. And yes, there are bigger slums in some areas than others, right? Like, but that's not uncommon here in America too. It's like you go outside of Seattle, it's like go see Tent City. Go look at all the homeless people that are out on the street and stuff. It's like we're not this perfect utopia. Like, we can maybe they have a higher percentage, of people. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't really know. I didn't look at it statistically, but if you watch the media, obviously you see these giant slums, and they have, like in India, they have the caste system, which definitely has to be eradicated at some point. But we also have a caste system here. We just don't talk about it.
Have you seen White Tiger?
No, I haven't.
On Netflix. Go check it out. It's amazing.
I will. Because like everybody talks about this caste system over there, and I unfortunately had I don't even know. It is unfortunate, but I worked with a lot of East Indians when I was at Microsoft, and you got to see that they were all in the highest caste. There are none of the low caste members ever make it over here. They never get approved for a visa. It doesn't matter how good of a skilled developer they are, even if they're a hobbyist developer. They do not come over here. You don't see them. It's always the highest caste. They're the only ones that are allowed to travel, over here and get a job. And so you can talk to them pretty openly about it. And to them, it's like nonchalant. Like to them, that's just like how they were raised. That's how life is. But a lot of them,
part of life.
Once they come over here and they stay for a little while, they start to realize just how bad that is, just because they finally got exposed to something that was different. But like from their perspective, like growing up in their country and everything, they were like, this is just how it is. But we have the same thing here too. It's like when you walk around, it's like you could be raised in a poor family and literally not be able to get an education and not get lucky enough to get a break and basically end up drug addicted and on the street, right? We see it every single day. And it's like, we don't have a system in place that just picks those people up and just gives them a job and brings them up with the rest of us. It's like they get left behind, and that stuff's really sad. So I hate it when we do the finger pointing at somebody else just to like deflect away from the hypocrisy that we have. It's like, if we can't solve that problem, how can we expect them to solve that problem?
But I do think it's important to bring this stuff up. I mean, when things come up, you don't want to just ignore them. The thing that fascinates me about China is their perspective is so much more longer term and general population than anywhere else I've ever lived. I mean, Canada's a little bit more about a population than individuals. I always say that Canadians like to be governed and Americans like to govern. And so I think there's definitely a distinction between Canadians and Americans. But what fascinates me with China is that their approach always seems to be as is on a time scale much longer than like the 4-year voting.
Well, they have
cycle
a 100-year plan.
Yeah,
they have a 100-year plan to bring China in, kind of to the next level. And I forget exactly I haven't talked about this in a while, so I forget exactly what the wording is, but it's sort of to bring China into the next century, right?
Right on.
And they're ahead of schedule.
Oh,
like they have an actual plan. It's not just sort of like, in 100 years we're going to make things better. Like they have an actual plan, and then they break the 100-year plan down into 5-year plans. Right. And they're ahead of schedule on the 100-year plan, and the 5-year plan gets made at the very top of the government. So it's a very top-down structure, right? Which is not to say that I think, it's just about, the people at the top being rich, right? Like, I think there very much is an opinion that like the only way the CCP retains power is through raising up the entire Chinese population, right?
Which makes sense. So, because like when you have 1 billion people, if they're all plebs who are being like smushed, it's way easy to rise up and destroy a small, overpowered government. If everybody's kept at least minimally happy, they're probably not going to revolt.
Yeah, it's actually
true. And what's even better is if they continually feel like their lot in life is improving, and that's what's happening, right? I guess it just comes down to perspective. They're seeing in their lifetime, in the past decade, how much better their life has gotten. Right.
That's wild. So
they make these top-down plans, and then it trickles down. So the top government makes a 5-year plan, and then the provincial governments make a 5-year plan that aligns with the top plan, and then the local governments, and so it filters all the way down.
I want to read a couple of these super chats that came in earlier. Get caught up here. Bazinga's, thank you for the $10 super chat. He said, Scotty, he said, is there any way to purchase from those shops online, meaning like the marketing, the markets you go to? Do they have like URLs that you can go buy stuff outside of the country?
Yeah, I get asked this all the time, not in an organized way. So the places to go are AliExpress, right? A lot of those guys are on AliExpress. Also Amazon. Like a lot of those guys have Amazon stores, right? So AliExpress, Amazon, and then Taobao, which is a Chinese site. It's all in Chinese. You, depending on the seller, you might get them to send you something outside of the country. Otherwise, you can work with a Taobao forwarder. So the Taobao forwarder will have you send stuff to their Chinese address, and they'll forward it on to your US or whatever address.
You can get some really interesting PC cases from Taobao. It's actually really neat. There's some very cool stuff. That's my own experience with it, but yeah, there's some really neat stuff there.
You can buy anything you can dream of off of Taobao. I had a friend in China buy live geckos, 50 live geckos off of Taobao to release into the apartment building to try and solve the cockroach problem.
That's terrible. Don't do that.
It worked for a while.
Yeah, but then you got to get something to eat the geckos.
No, geckos are friendly. No. In Asia, geckos are good luck, and they live around they live on the ceilings of the walls, and you're not supposed to kill them because they eat all the bugs. And
we have a gecko. We have a gecko called Casper that thumps around at night. I'm amazed at how noisy they are.
Yes.
I've never heard of this Taobao site. Here, let me.
I put a link in the chat.
Oh, we're doomed now. Is that? Did I ask how to spell it?
It is all in Chinese. You'll have to go through the Google Translate or something.
Yeah. No, I already did because it just opened up and I was just seeing all kinds of sketches of little houses and teas and stuff. So I can't read that.
But I'm poking around. There's some really cool stuff.
Oh, there's amazing rabbit holes on Taobao that you can fall down.
See, I've ordered from AliExpress, I think twice in my life. And one of them, I mean, the thing is you can get stuff there if you're willing to wait the time for it to come over. Yeah. You can get stuff from there that's like so much cheaper than what the same thing's selling for on Amazon for the same exact product. So like I ordered just
if you plan ahead.
Yeah. So I was planning.
I suck at.
And the thing is, I always forget about it. I order it and then it takes so long to get here that I forget about it. And then just one day it magically shows up and I'm like, what is this bag that smells like China? It's like I rip it open, I pull the part out, and I'm like, oh, I ordered this like 2 months ago. But
I love it.
So
it's like a
cheap.
surprise.
Yeah, it
Gifts,
is.
Christmas. Yay.
Well, because I wanted to make one of those
know
videos.
when I've gotten something in the mail from AliExpress or Taobao because it's packaged like this.
Isn't that cool?
It has packaging all around it.
I got Coke.
This is the
China.
waterproofing. So they waterproof the packages because they sometimes sit out in the rain mid shipment.
It's
wild. The dodgiest looking packaging. It's like please open me and check for duties.
I got showed up in an envelope. Like what both things I ordered showed up in like these manila envelopes that literally were just tape. They were just wrapped in tape.
Oh wow.
And they looked like they were like just smashed. Like people were driving over them with cars and stuff. But it was fine. Like the thing I ordered was fine. But I couldn't believe how cheap it was even with the shipping. I think I ordered because the plan was I ordered a bunch of random stuff that was like under $5, and I was going to do a YouTube video back when everybody was doing this. I was like, oh, I'll do a YouTube video, open all this crap because people like those videos. And I ended up not doing it because it just took too long for the stuff to get here, and I was doing other stuff. But when it finally got here, I was like, holy crap! It was a hand crank USB charger that I bought. It had like a little LED on it, so you could use it as a flashlight because they put LEDs on everything as a flashlight just because it's like, a value add. And you crank it, you plug in the thing. But the problem was if you cranked it like too hard, it would start like glitching out whatever you had plugged into it. So it obviously did not have stable power. But as long as you kept like a regular rate, it'd sit there and it would charge your device. So it did what it said. And I bought it from AliExpress. I think it was $1.99 and it was like $1.50 shipping or something. It was like all three items I bought were under $20 shipped. And it like showed up, and then I went on Amazon. I was like, oh, I wonder if they got these on Amazon because I just found it on the site when I was looking. It was on the front page or whatever. So I go to Amazon. God, they were selling them for $24 before shipping.
That's how you can make a fat buck. You buy like
what do they call it? It's called something, isn't it? Drop shipping or something?
Drop shipping would be like China sends it directly to the person who bought it from you. But like if you want to have a bunch of stuff in your closet,
as we all do.
I mean, I do. I'm trying to sell a bunch of stuff myself.
Yeah, because you can buy just a big box, like 100 units of that, and then just put it into inventory at Amazon, crank it up, 500%, and you only got to sell a quarter of them, and you turn a huge profit. It's like That's kind of wild. So you start to understand like what's going on. And then the only benefit that you're giving to the people, obviously, is less shipping time, right? So like on Amazon, it's like they're getting their product in like 2 or 3 days versus, or even 1 day in some cases if it's stocked at the warehouse. But from China, you have to wait like 2 months. But if you eat that up ahead of time and get like, 500 units or whatever, that just seems like it's like, so it's kind of like what's going on with like scalping of video cards and consoles. It's just, this has always been happening for Chinese goods.
You got it. You got it.
And then Amazon handles all the logistics on it too, like returns and stuff like that. Like I know a lot of companies now sell through Amazon that were exclusive sellers themselves. Like I've seen PC builders now that are selling through Amazon. I've seen e-bike builders that are selling through Amazon now. Keyboards like Kinesis keyboard, like the keyboard I use, my split keyboard that I've been using for years, they now sell through Amazon as well as their own site. And I'm like, why would they all do this? Because it's like, Amazon takes a decent cut. Like they make more money selling it through their own site, but it comes down to like convenience and logistics. And once you factor that all in, it's like well worth it.
Yeah, like, you've got the whole system in place without having to actually upfront pay for anything.
Yeah, and all you have to do is just give it to them. Like you load everything into a box and you ship it to Amazon, and they file it in their warehouse. And they stick it in there, and then they handle everything from there on out. So it's like, you don't have to, it's not like Amazon selling something and then you have to ship it. Like you can do that. Like I think they do support that, where you can basically drop ship it on Amazon's behalf. But the fact that they have it right there in the factory, it's like, I like that idea of just make a bunch of merch or buy a bunch of merch, stick it in a box and just send it to them, and they're everything. They're the shipping, the return, the support, everything. So go ahead.
So in Shenzhen, in the electronics markets, like a couple streets over is Shipper's Alley. And Shipper's Alley, so what you do is you go buy your product in the markets. You can then go over to Shipper's Alley, and there are people that sell packaging, right? So like the zipper envelopes that like say generically like USB cable, and they've got the nice graphics and whatever on them, but they don't actually have any logos or brands on them. Yep. So you package your stuff up, put it in a box, you take it to your shipper, and the shippers now advertise Amazon FBA. Right. And so they will do all of the Amazon specific labeling for the merchandise to ingest it into Amazon's warehouse, and then they'll ship it to the warehouse for you.
So if you wanted to make a bunch of money, you could just fly over. I mean, you'd have to have the papers or whatever, but fly over to China, go to this market, buy thousands of dollars worth of merch, literally same day, take it over, pay the shipper guys. They're going to box it all up and give it to Amazon, handle all the logistics. You get on a plane and come back, and you just collect your money.
Yep.
No wonder everybody's doing this, man. Like, honestly. Well,
so speaking of business then, so Scotty, what, like, is your business just the videos? Not just, but I mean, is it the video is your thing now? That's your
video is my thing. Yeah. The goal. So, I mentioned at the beginning that I accidentally started a YouTube channel, and that isn't just tongue in cheek. My original goal, I went to Shenzhen thinking that I would start an electronics company. I had a software company prior to that, and I had wound down my role in that. It was still running. And I was sort of looking for my next.
Doing? Yeah, I didn't know you were a software developer. I'm interested in this.
Yeah, so I was doing data analysis on the app stores. So I ran a company called App Monster that basically collected. We went through and crawled the app stores every day and collected all of the publicly available information. So every single app that's out there, we would check, its price, its icon, its description, all of that. All of the reviews, we had, millions and millions and millions of reviews that we had collected. And then we would sell that to various companies that didn't want to do all of that data collection work themselves. We did some analysis on top of it, but mostly we would sell it to other companies. And so I got tired of doing the enterprise sales portion of that, because any founder level role eventually devolves into only sales.
Right.
At least for that kind of company.
You go where the money is, right? That's what always happens. The money always takes out over the passion.
Well, you eventually hire engineers that are smarter than you, and they take over. And then
Microsoft tried to promote me into management like 5,000 times in 15 years. I'm like, why do you keep trying to take me from what I love to do? And they're like, but you'd be good as a manager because you're so good as a developer. You can help the other developers. And I'm like, to what ends? Then I just turn them into managers. And you always have.
But that's also not how that works. They're like completely separate skill sets.
They are. I've never known a developer that became a good manager. Dev lead, sure. Manager, no.
And that's, I mean, that goes off on a different tangent, but that is the trouble with, I think, bigger corporations is they tend to promote up rather than just like maybe somebody does. So like, I like the concept. There's like two kinds of people. There's like the rock stars and like shooting stars or something like that. Rock stars just want to do their thing and be the best at it. They're not interested in climbing the ladder, where like shooting stars want to go up, up, up. And I feel like it's important to, especially at least in a smaller business, and that's where kind of my experience is from working for a small business, is identifying the people who want to do what they do and be the best that they can be, rather than promoting up until you hit that ceiling where like, well, you're good enough to stay where you are and not get fired, but you're not really that great at what you're doing, so you're not going to get promoted anymore. And like, that's kind of, yeah, you know, some people
failing upwards.
Yeah, kind of like you'll do well enough until you get promoted to a point where like you're only okay.
Yeah,
and that sucks.
You see that in the film industry a lot, where people will get on the ground floor and then just get moved up until you've just got people who are so far removed from the actual film industry running the film industry. So
yeah, like
there's a name for that phenomena where you get promoted to the level of your incompetence. And I forget what it's called. Maybe
sounds like a Monty Python sketch.
Yeah, right.
It's
I'm sure someone in chat will know.
All right.
Well, I know that was a big problem though at Microsoft, is they would take developers that were really, really good, and then they just throw a ton of money at them and say, "You are now a program manager." And they'd be like, okay, how much coding am I going to be doing as a program manager? Oh, tons. Right. You're going to be doing tons, showing these guys like how to do it. And you're going to understand what's going on with the project better than anybody because you were on the ground floor. And then you get in there and you realize you're not doing any coding. All you're doing is rejecting everything and trying to hit deadlines and trying to look good. And then before you know it, you're laid off because they have too many program managers and they've already filled the dev position that you came from. So there's no going back to it. And so that's that I don't like that. I think that's silly. And the other thing too is stack ranking. Oh God, I hate stack ranking.
What is stack ranking?
So stack ranking is the premise that there can only be one rock star, so there also has to be a loser on your team. So if you have 5 guys on your team, you might have
I volunteer. I'll be a loser.
So to this day, this still happens at Microsoft, and I hated this ever since this went into effect because one, it made me feel bad because anytime I got promoted, I knew it was at the detriment of one of my other team members. So you know, so what happens at Microsoft is, let's say you have a team of 5 people on it, you're allowed to promote one guy, and then 3 of the people are allowed to be in the average belt, and then one of them has to be failing. And so if you have a team of 5 people and they're all competent and they all do good work, you still have to pick a loser. And that's required. Like there's no way around it. There's no like special, you have to. So, and if you lose 2 times in a row, you're basically out of the company. They'll fire you at that point. So what they do is they move, you're like designated loser. So like every couple of years, you have to take the fall for the team, even if you did good work, just because if they give the lose to another person, they could be fired off your team. And so you end up in this really awkward situation where you end up losing your most talented people because they'll come in on a team that just has a really strong standing and the buddy system. And so all the promotions keep going to, the higher up people that they want to keep on the team. And then you end up drawing the short straw. So what you have to do is you have to get on that team and then just bounce around until you can find a team where you're the rock star. And push somebody else out. And that happened all the time. And then people get fed up with it and just leave. Like I knew so many great developers that just left because they're like, okay, I'm done with this shit. I'm going to go to another company and get paid more and not have to deal with this. And I never understood that the stack ranking model is flawed because it makes the big assumption that you're always going to have a team. Now I understand that you're probably always going to have at least one person on your team that's a high performer, but there's always going to be teams where everybody on the team are critical. And that happened all the time where it's like there was no loser. They were all fantastic and they all worked in concert. And it sucks to be the guy that's like, oh, it's my turn to fail. Like, how do you stay motivated throughout the year doing your job when you know you got a review coming up? Where and literally they'd like sit down with you and they'd be like, hey, listen, you did a great job. Don't get me wrong, you did a great job. Don't change anything. But because of the stack ranking system, I got to bust your balls. So just, the stuff that I said that you did terrible in your review, like you really weren't that bad, like, or it wasn't a problem, but, just realize this is how we keep the team together. Like you have to take a hit. Oh, next year you can be the rock star. And I hated that. I absolutely hated that model, mainly too, because I knew a lot of people at Microsoft, like all the way up through director. And so I would never be the guy that had to take the short straw. So every time I got a promo, and I was doing good work, I'm like, okay, which team member did I just completely screw over? And then that makes you feel bad because you're like, you can't enjoy it because you're like, I know that and there was so many times I worked there where my team was just awesome. There were no bad people on my team for certain years. Now there were definitely years we had shitty people, but there was times where the team was so well tuned that like the manager would start getting nervous and being like, we got to find a loser. Like there has to be somebody on this team that fucked up, like went to lunch and stayed too late or something, right? Like, because you don't know who you're going to have to say that they're basically a failure. And then if you fail, you're pretty much, as long as you weren't doing a bad job and you get the failure, you pretty much know that you're going to get the promo the next year. Because that's how
does a company stop this stuff though? Like how does a company increase in size without these kind of weird bureaucracies kicking in? Or is that just impossible?
I don't understand why the stack ranking system exists other than to try to get the team members to step on each other's heads and put them underwater. Like you don't want to work with your team. You want to sabotage them. And I think that's stupid. And I think that's what they're trying to do. I think that's the idea of the stack rank is to make you feel like, oh, if your other teammate's doing really, really good work, you better get off your ass and work twice as hard because if you don't, you're going to fall behind and you're going to lose your job. Even if you're doing everything your job requires of you, now you have to go so far above and beyond your job just to get an average rating that it lights a fire under people's ass. But again, if the whole team's doing a really good job, it's like you still have to pick a loser. And
I'd love to know who came up with the idea and when it became implemented in a company like that.
That I don't know. I wonder how many companies actually do use that model, though, because I can't imagine Microsoft just decided one day, oh, we're going to use this. I'm sure that it was like some well-established model that had been used at other companies, and they were like, oh, well, let's have a go with this. And then they kept it. It was on and off. Like they used to do, you got to score between 1 and 5, and then they did it backwards where it was like, 5 was good and 1 was bad, and then they'd flip it over again. I mean, they tried all different things. Like every couple of years they'd change the whole model, but it was when they went to the stack ranking stuff that things got like truly bad, like truly bad.
Yeah. I think they do stack ranking at Google as well, but they do it across much larger organizations.
Yeah.
So it's not just under one manager. And so I think that helps a little bit because then it's not, it's certainly not part of, when I was there, it was not part of the discussion among managers and teams and things like that.
Oh, Bazinga said Enron started that model? Interesting.
That like promo teams, the promo, whatever, they get together managers to sort of figure out who gets promoted. And it was things they had to do behind closed doors, but it wasn't a ton of pressure on a manager to figure out, okay, who's my loser going to be, which just sounds toxic.
I was a manager for 6 months and I almost quit. I went back to an IC position. Like I was one of the few people that actually went into management and managed to come back to an IC position because I was good enough at what I did that seat was always sitting there for me. Like I could just pick my team and go back to it. And I was a manager for 6 months and I had a team of 15 people underneath me that worked on a tool called centralized triage, which was used for years. It's not used anymore. But at Microsoft, it was basically like the team. We were the ones that triaged all of the breaks that occurred throughout the company when we were running daily testing on builds. And we were the ones that actually got first eyes on a break before the developer did. So we were the ones that had to go in and categorize the failures and then find the developer that was most likely responsible for the component that broke and how it broke, and then basically build them a bug that can make it really easy for them to take action on it. And we created automation around doing that. And I'll tell you what, man, the 5 months that I was a manager on that team, oh man, I wanted to kill myself. It was the worst experience of my life because one, I didn't get to code. I didn't get to code shit ever because all I was doing was going to meetings like all the time. It's like meetings. And then I had to go to this thing called Ship Room every day, which is basically a meeting where you just go, it's a director level meeting where you basically just get berated for like an hour. Everybody's yelling at everybody. Nothing's good enough. It's just a super toxic environment. And I finally just hit the point where I went back to my boss and I said, listen, I just want to go back to an IC role. And then we brought in another guy and basically lied to him about the position. And then I stuck him with it and ran. He's actually one of my best friends today, though. It's funny. We actually ended up becoming really, really good friends. Wow. And we both left the company and stayed in touch, and we still hang out when we can. But yeah, I threw him under the bus. I hated the job so much that I literally took this guy and lied to him about the position just so that he'd think it was awesome and agree to take it just so I could leave.
Wow.
And he never let me live it down. Even to this day, he still makes jokes about it. It's
it's okay. Russia's running Microsoft now anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's true. Right? That's true. Yeah, they got all the source code in there. They're never gonna get all the back doors.
They'll be handling it from here. Thank you.
They will never get rid of those back doors. They are there for life.
Oh man,
it's terrible. We got a couple more super chats here. Andrew said, "Awesome show. Love Stargate. Hey, who doesn't love Stargate, man? Stargate for the win." Yeah. Hey, Andrew, thank you for the $10. He said exactly. Oh, exactly. But Stargate lol. Was that, what was that in context too? Yeah, that went over my head. I'm sure it was in context at one point. Let's hear. Doherty Harms, thank you for the €5. Said, hi, David. What is the difference between consulting, executive, supervising, and co-executive producer? Oh, yeah. What can you break down the roles for us,
Oh,
David?
yeah.
How does it?
It is such a weird one because it depends. It's different for TV. It's different for film. Jane should really be answering this because she is a producer. But I feel like executive producer usually involves, if it's a film, usually involves the money. It's usually they're involved in somehow bringing in the finances.
Oh, really? I wouldn't guess that.
And consulting producer usually means that there's a claw in there somewhere that they have to give you. They have to give you something for being involved in some way. Associate producers are just like, have an associate producer credit and we'll take your money. And what else? And then the producer basically does everything. I mean, Jane, on the film we made together, Jane was at one evening was like literally cleaning the toilets because there was no one there to do it. And, her job was to make sure everything got done. So she did that. So everything from finances to casting to toilets. But when it comes to TV, it's a different thing. Executive producers basically are the people who create the show and run the show, basically. I think I've got that right. Executive producers, is that right? I just suck up to everyone. It's easier. Just in case. Just in case. You never know.
Oh, David, we lost your audio again.
Yeah.
The Mac being Mac. Actually, what he said though is like true for that seems to be true for like every industry. Is like sucking up seems to be like the universal language to like climb the ladder if you don't have any skills. Like honestly, there was, I won't name any names, but there was people at Microsoft that are still there today that are like in executive level positions that have never done any development, any testing, don't know how to debug a break, nothing. They have literally not a single tangible skill. And they just occupy a seat because they're just drinking buddies with like the directors.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too. I mean, and a lot of like you'll see a lot of actors will get producer credits. It just means that you couldn't pay their bill. Basically, you couldn't pay them enough, so they're like, well, fine, you'll be a producer on the show. And
so
sometimes
like,
those could be more active.
$4 million, and you're like, how about a producer credit 1.5? And they're like, done.
Yeah. So there's funny. A lot of there's no sort of like hard fast rules for that stuff. But like showrunner is the term that they use for the people who are involved in all the creative aspect.
We're actually doing the work.
Yeah. And then, they know the actual doing the work is probably the production managers who would then have to sort of do all the staffing and stuff. But again, it's a factory system, right? They just want to make sure that if someone, bails or can't be there, that there's a million other people who can take their position. And then of course there's the herding of cats, which is just the actor side of stuff. So but it's and there's a whole other COVID thing now as well. So we've got a whole other like basically crew on everything we work on. So
yeah,
I think I just screwed something up here.
Uh-oh.
So hey, now we're getting the technical problems.
Hey, you just simmer down. You just simmer down there, you guys. I'm just trying to figure out why copy and paste is doing instead of duplicating, it's creating a reference.
Oh yeah, you've got me labeled as David Hewlett.
Yeah, I'm trying to fix it here. But when I copy and paste the scene, it changes them both when I edit one. So it's like doing a reference instead of
right click and paste rather than Control V.
Oh, I see. Okay, so there's reference and duplicate. Okay, so if I right click that and then I right click say paste, reference duplicate. Okay, so now I got a duplicate, so this should work now. All right, there we go.
Chat says this is why you don't mess with it, Jerry.
Yes, but don't touch nothing.
Well, I just want people to know who our wonderful guests are. That's all. Jeez.
I mean, that guy and him and you and me.
Yeah. There you go. Here, I'll put this over there. There you go, David. See, it's like putting that thing on the back of the chair for the director.
Oh right. Yeah,
David's got this crazy high key background, so all the white text doesn't show up.
Pick a different color here. Well, actually, here.
It's true. I've got every color known to man in the background.
I'm gonna do this the lazy way. I'm just gonna bring in some background color. There you go. There we go. I contrasted you, bro.
Oh, there we go.
And then AuxxZillary and I don't deserve anything, so we're just gonna remain anonymous as far as
I'm pretty famous. So
I mean, everybody knows who we are. I mean, we're a thing on the internet, right? I mean, we got what 591 people in here. Come on, dude. It's like we're throwing down hard today.
That's not bad.
Nah, it's not bad. That's pretty normal. So do you guys want to hit some of the topics?
What topics?
Let's do it.
Scotty, one quick question.
We were just warming things up. We were going to talk about so Scotty and I were talking about some recycling stuff on my Twitch stream that ironically, Scotty, you were the one that got me to fix the back massager.
Yeah, that was a hilarious stream.
Yeah, that was funny. That was legit funny. Oh my god!
I couldn't stick around for the whole thing, but I stuck around for way more than I thought I would.
Dude, it got so much worse at the end. So much worse, dude. Like I was trying to get the handle on it, and I'm like, and somebody clipped it.
That clip showed up in my Discord.
Nice.
Oh, but yeah, I fixed it. That was awesome. Like
that was good television right there, Jerry.
Yeah. Stole the bearing from the fidget spinner. It worked flawlessly.
You got to do more stuff like that.
I should just start like, because I got plenty of broken shit laying around. Like I'm one of those weird digital hoarders where it's like I had a dead printer that I couldn't get rid of. It was literally just a boat anchor getting kicked around the house, and it was like completely dead. Like once the print head's gone on those things, they're done. Like you can't replace it right on the cheap ones. So I kept the printer, and like one day I did a live stream where I just took the whole thing apart. I didn't do anything with the parts. I just put them into a container when I was done and ended the stream. But it's like now I got a container that has like 5 motors in it, some optical glass, some ribbon cable, a couple circuit boards that are worthless, an optical sensor. It's like I could probably take all that stuff and hook it up to that fancy device that you were live streaming a couple of weeks ago, where it can analyze it and figure out how to jigger it and get it to work, and maybe make something cool with it.
That's the Tech Bandits. That's what we do. The Tech Bandits all the time is just take old printers. I do my little geek trash runs around the neighborhood because people are always throwing out old printers.
Those are the best stories,
and they love taking them apart.
Yeah, I remember your story where you said you were like trying to get an actuator off of like somebody's adjustable bed, and like the lady came out and was like, "Get out of here, you garbage person."
She was not happy. I was hoping someone would take the whole bed. I was like, all right, I'll put it back together again.
Good luck.
Like, fine.
You're like, fine, be like that. Speaking of beds, though, good news. Sleep Number decided to finally refund my bed, so I'm getting all my money back for my bed after 4 years of pain and suffering.
Would you threaten to take over all of their internet accessible beds?
In a way, yes. I actually, in not so many words, yes, I did, and that's when they changed their tune. So. Like long story short, like I had a Sleep Number bed that I bought for $10,000 4 years ago because I needed my back's so bad. I need an adjustable bed that I could change the pressure and all that. And I slept in
grand?
10 grand.
They're
dude.
expensive.
Honestly, it's the most expensive bed I think that you can pretty much buy. That's
Get a cyborg back.
Dude, it's the shittiest bed ever. Like when you buy the thing and they come to your house and assemble it, you realize it's a mistake at that point because they literally it's like 2 Coleman air mattresses stuffed into like a burrito casing with like some memory foam put on top and like an aquarium pump and an Arduino, and you're like, why did I pay $10,000 for this again? Like,
oh my God.
Scotty could build this blindfolded in like 15 minutes for like $20. It's like, so anyways, the long of it is this bed kept developing leaks. Like we literally had to replace the bladder in both sides 2 times over the course of 3 years. So
yeah, because they're called cats, Barnacules. That's what they're called.
It's completely shielded. There's like an inch and a half of foam all the way around the bladder. So there's no way for the cat to get its claw like down into the mattress. And so that wasn't the leak. The leak was the seams would fail. So where they'd melt the seams together on the rubber and put the fabric over it, just over time from you cycling the pressure up and down and getting in and out of the bed, it would just it would pop a seam and start letting a little
literally
air
the one thing it's supposed to do.
Hour.
Dude, it's
like one job, and that is to stay inflated.
Yeah, I know it's literally an inflatable bed and it can't stay inflated. So this is how shitty the bed is. Like, and Scotty, you'll appreciate this story because being an electronics guy, you're going to realize how much low hanging fruit was just like left on the table here. So they create this bed, they charge you like 10 grand for this thing. And what it does is you put in a number, and that number corresponds to a certain pressure depending on how much you weigh laying on the bed. So if you're heavier, it uses a little less pressure. If you're light, you use a little more. If you're lighter, it uses a little less. And it basically computes, just because they wanted to save money. Again, this is, every penny saved is a penny earned.
Sure.
They didn't even put a pressure sensor on it. When I finally started diagnosing it, because it kept deflating, like every hour it would go flat. And so I'm like, but it doesn't inflate until you go and change the number up and change the number down, and then it reinflates, and then you're good for another 10 minutes, and then it starts deflating.
How does it know what the pressure is?
It's literally measuring the load on the motor, the pump. they are literally watching the load, and as the load increases, that means that the pressure, because you might weigh a different, if it's harder to inflate the mattress, that means there's more pressure, right? So they even tell you not to adjust the pressure unless you're laying in the bed, because if you're not laying in the bed, it'll just inflate it to max or whatever, no matter what you put it on. So they're literally, so when you're sitting there listening to the bed pump up, it's like, and then it turns off. So basically, it's just measuring like the RPM of the motor or the strain on the motor, and that's how they're so the pressure is way off every time you do it, because depending on how you're laying in the bed, are you sitting in upright, or is it adjusted? It's a different pressure every damn time. So
but honestly, they probably would have the same problem if they had a pressure sensor.
That is true. That is true. I'm not going to fault them too bad for that. But here's the problem with the flaw in this thing, and there's more than one. Like that, we dealt with electronic failures. We dealt with the mattress, the way it's like magnetized down to the base, so it's adjustable. It would tear through the fabric because they didn't put any stress. Like the stressed parts didn't have any additional seams or anything to keep the fabric from ripping. So over time, when you adjusted the bed up and down, it would just rip these holes bigger and bigger and bigger until the mattress would just slide off the base. Like,
you'd think they'd do like QA on this thing or something.
Yeah, and the thing is, all these problems are well documented. Like I went into
feature.
I go into their forums, and it's like top 10 issues with their bed, and like the 3 top 10 issues are all issues that I've had repeatedly. And the replacement parts that they give you, they haven't attempted to re-engineer or make new parts. They just made so many parts initially that when you get a new bladder, you're basically getting like a 10-year-old part. It's absolutely, and even like it's discolored. Like they get here, it's like, dude, it's even discolored. That's how old it is, right? So these bladders. So my solution was, because it takes them like 2-3 weeks, sometimes a month, to get somebody out to replace the bladder when it fails, and they won't just send you the parts to do it yourself, even though it's like a chimp could do this. They have to have a person come to the house, and then they started like wanting to charge me for the service calls. Like we'll give you the parts for free because it's under warranty, but now we got to start charging you for service. And I was like, okay, hell no, I'm not doing that anymore. So I went out and I found on GitHub, somebody had written a wrapper around the RESTful API on their website to inflate and deflate the bed. And I'm like, wait a second. So when I'm inflating and deflating my bed, it's going through a website?
Wait,
it is. Yeah. It is. It legit is
what do you
going
mean
through a website.
RESTful API on their website to inflate your bed?
Yeah. So check this out. This and the security on it sucks too. Like I could probably go out and just like create a script that just goes to every IP on the internet and just adjusts every bed to max. Like it's their security sucks. It's absolutely.
And now
so what's the URL again?
So
right. Let's do this.
Like sleepnumber.com, man. Like literally, and the script is on GitHub. Just do a search for sleep number on GitHub, and I even uploaded my script. So I wrote a Python script that wraps the library. And so what my Python script does is it uses the RESTful API to basically send a command every 10 minutes to reinflate the bed to the number that I specify. And so the whole time I'm laying in the bed, it's like every 20 minutes, it's like, okay, it's pumped up again. So I had to figure out the right tuning on it to where I wasn't going up and down like an elevator. Like it was frequent enough that it was keeping it relatively constant, but it wasn't so often that it was going to burn the pump out, right? So I'm basically sending a command to the website. So my computer upstairs is sending a command through a Python script I created to the RESTful API that then sends a command down to the bed, which is Wi-Fi connected, and then tells it to reinflate. And I'm doing this I think it was 10 minutes. I think that was the time that I settled on. Every 10 minutes, I'm doing this inflation. And the API also allows you to turn the light on and off under bed. It allows you to adjust the bottom, adjust the top. Like you can do everything with this bed. And they do have an authentication layer. So you do have to go through this authation layer to get the token.
It looks like there's a login and a password.
There is a login and a password.
I'm looking at the API now.
Yep, but
what's the default password and login?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, but here's
because you guarantee there's no way those little old ladies are changing their passwords.
No, and the thing is their password requirements are really relaxed. So I'm sure that there's people out there that just have junk passwords on these things. Like that you could easily brute force these things. Like I don't think that there'd be any.
So
Scotty, it gets worse. It actually gets worse.
You've actually hurt Scotty.
Yeah.
He's actually in physical pain.
No, this thing is terrible.
So
this bed is terrible.
Is what you're saying that the bed is connected to your Wi-Fi?
Yes. And not only that, the
Why?
bed.
Why?
Because the bed reports when you're in the bed, how long you're on the bed. It tells your heart rate. And this is funny. So they have this thing called Sleep IQ.
Oh, so they're collecting serious freaking data on you.
They're selling this data to somebody.
But why would you want your bed to do any of these things?
Because it sends
because
you a report.
It can, Scotty. Because it can.
Every morning it sends you a report that tells you how restless you were, your breathing patterns,
analyzes your sleep patterns and stuff.
But here's the funny thing is,
I've never understood that though, because if I've had a bad sleep, I fucking know it.
Right? It's all bullshit.
Tell me that.
It's all complete and total bullshit anyways, because you know how they detect your heart rate? Literally they're detecting your heart rate just by the pressure exertion on the mattress changing. So when you're taking a breath, it's making just tiny little changes in the pressure, and it's not accurate. It's not accurate. The beats per minute, like I wear a monitor some nights on me when I'm sleeping because I have sleep apnea and I want to see how many, how my heart rate's going up during an apnea event. And I look at the sleep IQ thing and it's like, you slept great. Oh, your heart rate maintained this perfect thing that's 20 points under what it actually was. It's total bullshit data. It's like they have so much digital massaging on the data. It's like completely insignificant. Like it doesn't give you anything other than you got up to go take it. The only thing it reliably tells you is when you're fully out of the bed and when you're fully back into the bed. Because there's such a huge pressure differential. Everything else is just, there's no wires coming off it. Like thought, oh, a heartbeat sensor. Okay, maybe they have some kind of thing, like a pressure pad or something on top of the mattress that's sensing up. No, there's nothing. It's a hose. They're getting all this data from a hose going into a pump. That's it. And they've created this simplified
heartbeat or breath rate.
They claim that they're getting heart rate, but there's no fucking way. There is no way. They're probably correlating it off of breath and adding some averages. It says this is not a medical device, their little bullshit that they say. And the funny thing is,
really isn't. It's also not a bed.
Yeah, and the other thing I found out is the sleep IQ feature, which being a nerd when I bought this thing, I was like, oh yeah, I want that. Or it was like $1,000 to do all this like crazy, like automatically adjust the pressure as you're sleeping to keep you less restless and everything. And the funny thing is, all it is software. They don't put any new sensors on the bed or anything. You buy the bed, it's fully capable of doing all that shit. All they do is just unlock it on their little API on their website that says, oh, he probably rolled onto his side because, we showed a rapid pressure change. So deflate the bed a little bit and see if he stops rolling around. But it's too dumb to know when it's deflating. That's the funny thing.
You got to do a YouTube video about this. You got to do like an AVE style teardown of your bed and just tear them a new one every step of the way.
See, I'd love to do it.
Because you know enough now to do it properly.
I do, but the sad thing is the only way I'm going to get my money back is if they can come pick up the bed intact. And I'm afraid that if I tear the whole thing apart the way it's assembled, I won't be able to get it back together. So
yeah, fair enough.
But I can still tell the story without it. I mean, I already went and did all the research on this. But but it's such a shitty bed because like how hard would it be? Like if they claim they can detect your heart rate, why can't they detect that the mattress just went completely flat? Like you're literally laying on a board in the middle of the night and you have to pick up the remote control and tell it to go up a number and down a number for it to inflate again. So they don't even have the ability to like combat a slow leak. And so I created the script to fix this leak and I started getting inundated with people on GitHub that were like, oh my God, you saved my life, man. Oh my gosh, my sleep number bed's been leaking forever and I didn't know what to do. And I wake up like 20 times a night and I'm like, holy shit. So this is a widespread problem.
Speaking of leaking, I'm going to go and get some coffee and have a pee.
Do it, man. Do it. You have our.
I'm going to do the same.
Do it. All right. Hey, Scotty, we got the floor to ourselves now.
Excellent.
But dude, this sleep number shit was like, I could not believe how simple this bed is. Like the electronics on it are literally from like the 90s. They haven't changed anything on this thing. The firmware is garbage. The software is garbage. The fact that the website sends the commands down to the bed is a huge security hole. Could you imagine like being asleep in the middle of the night and like somebody just brute forces your bed and just starts like putting the back up at a 90-degree angle and the feet up at a 90-degree angle, just crushing you in your bed in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
Like
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not how beds should work, but I can totally picture that.
Right. This is not how it should work. So Sleep Number, basically, when I wrote the script and I was ripping them on Twitter. Like I was going after them like as hard as you go after a company. And then finally I just tweeted, like they were kind of ignoring me a little bit because I was, the second they engage me, then it becomes more public for them. But all of a sudden I replied to somebody and I said, Sleep Number can buy their bed back from me. Otherwise, I'm tearing the whole fucking thing apart and doing a video on everything wrong with it, including their website. Totally. And I immediately get a DM from them that are like, dude, we will full refund, blah, blah, blah. We'll come pick up the bed on this day. I was like,
well, I think you should let them do that.
Yeah.
And then you should make a video. Preferably, you should find someone who is like, oh my God, my sleep bed, my sleep number, whatever, is having tons of problems.
Yep.
And you just use if you can find someone in your area, go take apart their bed.
No, I absolutely should. I absolutely should. Yeah. But I've been very vocal about it publicly and I'm sure that's why Sleep Number's like stepping in. They're like, oh God, okay, this guy is now starting to talk about stuff at the API level. This isn't good. And then of course it's an architectural problem because it's like, how do you fix it when every bed that's currently in circulation is like designed to talk to a website? It's like, that's an architectural problem. You can't fix it. So
you don't.
So they're like, just keep it quiet. Just tell them to shut the fuck up. But at the other time, the other side of it is I don't want to give away enough that people are like DDoS and beds, but at the same time, it's like somebody had to have figured this out. Like obviously,
and it's all out there.
Wrapper,
yeah, I mean, the fact that you've mentioned it at all is enough for the right person to get excited about it. Yeah, I certainly know people that would be excited about about DDoSing beds, or at least exposing it.
Yeah, find one of your white hat hacker dudes is going in there, one of these libraries on GitHub and figuring out all kinds of creative shit to do to the bed.
I want to know, what is the authentication between the bed and the API?
So the authentication that it's using, oh God, let me see if I remember right. It's it is encrypted HTTPS, but it's
So is it certificate pinned? Because if it isn't, that doesn't matter.
No, it absolutely 100% is not certificate pinned.
Okay.
No, there is no challenge.
So
auth,
HTTPS
no
doesn't matter at all.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing. You can send this command from you can send this command from a different IP address on a different subnet somewhere else, and as long as you have the username and password, you can send the command, and it will honor it. There is no other authentication.
Does the bed know the username and password?
No, it does not.
So the bed makes a web call to a website,
Correct.
Tells it what bed number it is, and then the website comes back and tells it what to inflate to?
Correct. The bed is literally sitting there connected, like it has an open socket to the server continuously. And then as soon as the server authenticates you as the user of the API and you send a command, they just send it down through that connection directly to the bed. So if
the bed doesn't do any verification against the website.
Not that I could find. No.
Brilliant.
So my guess is, if you could get the IP address of the network that actually has the bed on it, and you could do some kind of a man in the middle or a spoof to get that bed to connect to your IP address instead of them to authenticate, you'd have full control of that bed.
Why? I think you just need to own individual routers. Right?
Yeah. If you own the router, because you could add a NAT entry, right, to forward their packets onto you or whatever, and they think the bed thinks it's talking to sleep number.
Exactly.
So what's your IP again, Jerry?
7.
So all I need to do is just port scan the entire internet, find router vulnerabilities with default passwords, find a network with a sleep number bed, and I'm golden. I can make somebody's life a living hell. So I've come to the conclusion that beds should just be beds now. So my new bed I bought is just it's a really strong, heavy built, like it's the only bed I could find rated to 2,000 pounds. So, you never know. Miss Barnacules and I might want to get down one of these nights, and we don't want that shit to fold in half like a taco. So, I'm a big boy. So, so I got the one that can stand up. It literally, it's called Big Fig Mattress. It's literally for big figure. And they doubled up on everything. It's got double the springs. It's rated to 2,000 pounds. The base is like full cast iron. I mean, they literally built a bed to where you could just just smash this thing and drive over it with a truck. And so I was like, that's the bed for me. And I got it, and I've loved it ever since. Although putting it together, I did break my foot, but that was my fault.
What did that cost? What does it cost?
I think the mattress, the frame, and the base and everything, I think was like around 1,900, something like that. It was like 1,800 or 1,900. Yeah, beds get pretty expensive when you get into stuff crazy expensive. Hybrid. But the thing is, it's like I have to spend a good amount on a bed because unfortunately I spend a lot of time in bed because my back is all jacked up, right? So I need something that's like really supportive and something that's not going to sag and break down on me. And it's like the sleep number, just oh my god, everything broke on it. Everything that could break on it broke on it. And every time that somebody came out to service it, they'd be like, oh yeah, this is a real common problem, dude. We'll have this fixed for you like right away. And they'd go right to it. And they just like you could tell they did it 1,000 times, like every day. Like these were common things. One of the other failure points on this thing that drives me absolutely nuts that they haven't fixed, it happened to us twice, is there's a place where the hose plugs into the side of the mattress at the base of it. Like it's a plastic connector, right? That comes out, it's sewn into the bladder, and then you basically slide an acrylic hose over it, and it's got a little C-clamp, right? So you put it on there, and that's how the air gets in and out of the mattress, right? It's constantly an open channel for air, so the motor can turn on and just put air into it or let air out. And the problem is the plastic that they used breaks down in sunlight rapidly. So it's not a UV protectant plastic. So what happens is on the side of the bed that's facing the window where sunlight is coming in, the sunlight doesn't get fully blocked by the sheet over the mattress because the sheet is, light passes through it, a lot of light. And so what it does is this thing just within the course of about 8 months, it turned from white to dark brown and literally cracked in half. It became brittle, cracked in half, and started pissing air out of it. And they replaced it. And then another like 8 months or a year later, the same thing happened again. And this time when they came out, they're like, oh, okay, we're going to reroute the hose down here and like put a piece of tape over it or something so the sun coming in the window doesn't cause it to break again. I'm like, why don't you guys just make bladders that have a UV protected plastic thing? Because people put beds next to windos. It's like, this is not an uncommon
almost like
thing.
they did zero QA on this product.
That's how I feel. And they have made no attempts to fix anything on it. Like the new bed, it's the whole reason I bought this bed is it was the new one. that they just released at CES, their i10 line or whatever, but all the parts in it are exactly the same as the old mattress. All they did was change the mattress cover and add another layer of padding on top of the bladder. That's it. And they marketed
Is it
as a
time
whole new
for an
mattress.
open source, wireless bed now?
Yeah, like Scotty, you could one up Sleep Number and sell these things for like $5,000 all day long, man. To all the old folks' homes.
The first YouTuber. Well, this could be merch, really.
Yeah, there you go.
The first YouTuber backed. I know there are guys.
Rest your strange parts here.
Yeah. Knew this was going to go there at some point in this conversation.
That's great.
So when I went through the whole bed and I finally took it apart, because I finally just got sick of waiting for him. Like, I even tried to find the leak on the mattress, but I couldn't because it's too big to get into my bathtub. And I tried putting some soapy water. I could not find the leak. It's such a slow leak. And there's so many seams on the thing. It's like, what the hell am I looking for here? Maybe it's leaking out of 100 of these seams. I don't know, very slowly. So I couldn't find the leak. So I was like, that's why I went the software solution. Like, I was like, okay, well, if I can't fix this, maybe I can use the software to hack it. It was really easy to do. It took me an hour of just searching GitHub, and there was like 3 libraries. I found the one that worked with Python that I could, just fuck around with and get to work in the browser. And I was basically just copying the REST API calls right out of the Python and just putting it into the browser, and it was working. So I was like, okay, this is obviously going to work. And then I just wrote a little script to do the rest of the work. But when I took the bed apart, I was like, okay, to build a Sleep Number bed, this is all you have to do. Like, I can tell you, this 100% will build a Sleep Number bed that will be
write
better
this
than
down,
the Sleep Number
Scotty.
bed. So write this down.
Yeah, I'm over here.
I'm
looking up adjustable bed manufacturers on Alibaba right now.
Yeah, so now their adjustable base is way overpriced, but the base itself was actually somewhat decent. But what can really go wrong with the base? It's like literally just like 3 boards and like 2 linear actuators. So at least they used a decent linear actuator. That never failed. But the brain on this thing, like, you can tell it's old because it's a bed that's doing like an Arduino Uno would run circles around whatever they got in this thing, and the brain box is like this big. So it's like, it literally probably has like, I probably opened it up, probably has like a 28612 in it or something. This is like IBM on the side.
You can smell the burning dust.
Dude, it's so bad. It's so bad. But all you'd need to do to build a Sleep Number bed, I shit you not, is you just need an aquarium pump. That's all this is. It's slow too. Like, the fully inflated mattress from zero, like when this was another problem, is in the middle of the night, you'd inflate it. If you let it get down to no pressure, to fully inflate takes like 15 minutes.
So cool.
It's for this little mattress, like a little bladder. It's like a twin bladder, and it takes 15 minutes to inflate it because it's just such a damn slow pump using like crazy mechanical advantage. So the motor only has to be like this big. And so all you need to do to build this is go get 2 Coleman Air mattresses, put them side by side, like take the mattress, go find an old mattress and just tear the casing off of it. It's literally just a mattress sleeve. That's all it is. That heavy fabric that they put like on the outside of a mattress so it doesn't wear when you're rubbing around on it. All it is that, and inside it's a layer of memory foam, then a bladder, then another layer of memory foam, and then they just cut memory foam and like glue it together around the bladder just so that there's some support to hold the bladder in place. And then they put another thing of memory foam over the top of it, and that's it. It's literally just an air bladder with flat, like, packing memory foam. It's not even like custom shape or anything. It looks like some dude just cut it with an X-Acto knife. You put it in there, you zip the whole thing together, and you inflate both mattresses, and all you'd have to do is just run a hose down to an aquarium pump, hook it up to an Arduino, and just tell it basically to put air in or take air out, and then just measure the resistance on the motor to figure out if it's too inflated or not. And you'd be done.
This is the real reason why Barnacules invited you, I think.
It does sound like he's pitching me on the video I made my own Sleep Number mattress in Seattle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Build me a bed, Scotty. Scotty, build me a bed. Hey, Scotty, you help me fix my vibrator. Build me a bed, buddy. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You could just and your episode could just be about adjusting Barnacules' bed from Shenzhen.
Yeah,
I never say it
right. I
don't
even need a RESTful API. I can just call Scotty up and be like, "Hey, Scotty." It'd be just like Star Trek, right? Calling Scotty down. Hey, Scotty, the engine room. Can you pump me up to 80, dude? We got it.
It's no good. I can't do it.
Hey, Miss Barnacules is giving me the eye, Scotty. Get it. Come on, I need 90. Give me 90
no way
now.
That wee little motor can lift it.
More pressure, Scotty. More pressure.
Push it any further, Captain.
Scotty, she's going down. She's going down. Give me some pressure.
Man. That's awesome.
That'd be funny to have a little intercom on the nightstand, like they always push the button like an Enterprise. Ding, ding. Like, down in the engine room. Ding, ding, ding. Scotty can just PayPal me, like take $5 out of my PayPal every time I send him like a request.
Yeah, that'd be
funny. Like through
Scotty,
it'd be like
Fiverr. I want to ask you a completely off-topic question.
Do it.
you do a lot of like of YouTube and Twitch stuff now, but have you considered like a full length documentary? Have you thought about doing like any sort of, have you thought about like a feature about any of this stuff, or a series or anything like a real?
Cool. I got approached by some TV production companies after the very first video that I made, which was honestly way too early to be having that conversation.
Right. What was your first video? For context, like what was the first video?
It was making the iPhone in the markets. How I made my own.
Was that your
iPhone.
first? That was your first video?
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
Holy shit, you came out of the
yeah. It was a
you haven't seen that,
wild ride.
It's amazing.
No, I mean, I haven't watched it. I know of the video, but I haven't seen it all.
I never would have guessed that's your first video, dude. So you came in
that's so cool.
hot.
Yeah. So I spent 6 months. Hang on, I gotta kick the dog out, and then I'll tell the story. Give me 1 second.
The dog's like, you play with me now, damn it.
I have found you a toy, human.
I didn't realize that was his first video. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, AuxxZillary, like he literally goes and buys all the separate like loose parts,
the bits and pieces,
builds a phone from like scratch.
Sorry about
that. Oh, that's cool.
But it's like a travel video too. That's why I just love the way it was a neat combination of different sort of styles, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks. A
little Casey Neistat, a little, you know, there's a lot going on there. It's great.
So I mean, the secret of that video is it's not actually really about me or building an iPhone. It's really about the markets.
Sure.
But I sort of use the excuse of, hey, I'm going to build an iPhone to draw you in and tell you about the markets. It wouldn't work if it was me mail ordering all the parts and building it in my, bedroom in the US.
Was that the video where you fried a bunch of components, like trying to build it, or was that a different video? Oh no, that was you upgrading the RAM or something.
Yeah,
on an iPhone. I remember there was a video where you fried like half a dozen things.
The headphone jack video, I went through a ton of screens, which was very costly.
Oh man,
and painful. The
biggest giggle I got was you trying to do the soldering paste on the when you're like, how deep can I go on this? And you're like, no, I'm going to step back now. Yeah. Because I can see myself going down those rabbit holes. Like,
I can see why you got
a soldering
contacted
paste.
though
How
for a
hard can it be?
documentary. Like, I understand why you got contacted after that video because it looked like you've been doing it for a long time. Like, that did not take me at all when I watched it as your first video. I never would have guessed that.
Well, I had been doing it a long time. By the time I published the video, I spent 6 months full time on that, making that first video. So I spent like 2 or 3 months shooting and then a few months in edit. I didn't really know what I was doing at all when I started. So I really hadn't shot seriously before. I hadn't edited before. I mean, I knew how to use the software, but I hadn't really like told a story that way before. So it was really a lot of time learning. And then, that thing went crazy viral. It's got like 24 million views on it or something right now.
It's huge.
It was crazy. I mean, it was like plastered at the top of Reddit for more than a day. It was, on trending on YouTube. Like it was nuts. And so I got approached by like, I don't know, 3 or 4 TV production companies.
Wow. The vultures swooped in.
Yeah. And I eventually signed a holding deal and with a production company, I probably shouldn't say who. And like we put together a sizzle reel for a show that was kind of like it was going to be basically replicating the like how I made X in different places in the world.
Right.
And
which is a great idea.
Yeah, like it on the face of it, yes. And part of what I realized as we were doing the research for that is that there aren't a lot of other places like Shenzhen in the world. There aren't a lot of like Huashan-Bay electronics markets.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the characteristics specifically around iPhone parts in Shenzhen are somewhat unique, partly because there are just so many damn iPhones of a particular model in the world that there is so much surplus parts. So anyway, we kind of went down that road and they pitched it to a few people. I didn't think the sizzle reel was very good. I didn't think we had that many really solid ideas for episodes. And so it never really went anywhere and just kind of fizzled out.
I was also very reel? Is that like a demo, just a demo or
like a trailer?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So just
it's a trailer for something that doesn't exist yet.
Okay.
And so you kind of try and like cobble it together on the cheap and like, give a flavor of what this show might be like.
The thing
and
is,
a lot of look over here, because we don't have anything over here.
See,
a lot of
it
that
doesn't seem
too.
like it'd be worth it. Like when I was never approached for like a show around what I did necessarily. I was always approached to be on like Ellen DeGeneres' Game of Games, or to be on like some show where they take fat people out into like wilderness and see if they can survive for like a cash prize. Like,
Man, sign me up. What? Should it be cool?
I actually did sign up for that one, but it got canceled for the second season. I was signed up and approved, and they canceled it. And I was like, no, because I really wanted to go out in the woods and like, you know,
they lost
fail
half
on
of
day
their
one.
first cast.
Yeah, it was gonna be cool. It was like 28 days in Fiji, and I was like, but unless you failed, if you failed, then they literally put you on an airplane like the next day and sent you home. But yeah, that's the only thing I've ever been approached for, even with like my most popular videos. But the thing I always thought about when I looked at those was, let's say you did it. Let's say you did a show that was all around you, and you make that, you bridge that gap, and you go to TV. Are you really going to make that much more money than like what you're, I mean, you're getting like 20,
Less.
if you get 24 million. Yeah,
Less.
exactly. If you get 24 million views on
The
a video,
deals that I saw anyway.
you know, at let's say $3 on the low side CPM, right? On the absolute low side, that's $3 for every 1,000 monetized views. If you have 23 million views, that's a year's pay. Like for a decent job, that's a year's pay that you potentially, there's other things, ad blockers and shit like that. But I'm just saying potentially it has that potential. So if you could create one of those videos a month, I can't imagine any TV show unless it went super hyper viral or it was on like a really, you know, viral network and it'd be so much more stress. You would, you know, showing up for production, having this team you're working with, traveling around the world.
You don't have control either. You don't have control.
That was it.
It's not your. That's the thing that killed me.
Yeah,
like that's why I'm in love with YouTube and Twitch, is because I'm stuck in an industry that is, you know, that you don't have, you know, as an actor, it's great. You just like, you sit back, you wait, you get a phone call, you go, okay, where do you need me? I go there. That's fine. But trying to make your own stuff, I developed stuff for years and years of doing different stuff and signing deals and all this kind of stuff. And what happens is you end up in just this development hell where you can't be making stuff because you're waiting. And then if nothing happens, you can't do anything because someone else partially owns stuff. So
you have to act a certain way. Yeah, like you're not gonna be able to just go, I feel like shit today.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for me was like, you know, I was looking at, you know, this massively successful YouTube video, and I had, you know, and I was working on the headphone jack video when we started those conversations, right? We were putting together sizzle reels and stuff. And, you know, we got into like, you know, negotiating the holding deal. And I'm just going, my God, they want to give me so little creative control over this. They basically just want me to be the face on camera. You know, they're going to have somebody else scout the locations and do all the research. And they wanted to do a 1 week on location shoot per episode. And I'm just going like, you know, and I'm trying to tell this hero's journey of, you know, of this, you know, doing this really hard thing. And I'm like, how the hell are we going to tell a hero's journey story in a week that just doesn't feel totally fake? You know, like I just can't even wrap my head around how that's going to work.
Well, because it is fake. I mean, that's the frustrating thing. I found this with the educational stuff, where I was the educational and the documentary stuff with, I was doing a lot of, I was very interested in the assistive technology side of stuff and was looking at some documentary stuff and would pitch them. And you'd have these ridiculous arguments where you'd have people saying like, yeah, but you know, wheelchairs are depressing. And it's like, what? What are you talking about? Like,
I had a lot of conversations like that.
Yeah.
But
and
we can't do that because, you know,
yeah, that doesn't sell.
Somebody has
and you're like,
personal notion that like,
yeah, that's it. There just seems to be too many cooks in the mix. And the whole point of it is, again, like, you want to enjoy the journey. That's the whole point of it. Like, you're not, I mean, look, I at the same time, I whore myself out all the time. I'm happy to be the host of something. If someone's got another project, great. I'm more than happy to throw myself in there. And if it's something that's fun, even better. But then you are getting paid as a name, and then you can make some good money that way. But if it's a love, then no, I think this is much better way of approaching it.
Yeah. You know? That's my general take on it, is that after having gone through that whole process, at this point, I kind of would like to just keep Strange Parts mine and maintain control over it. And
smart.
And so, you know, really what I'd like to do, and it's been a real struggle, is I really want to build a production house that is kind of what I view as the next wave of production houses, right? I want to build a production house that is tailored to new media, right? And you're starting to see that, right? If you look at like Linus Tech Tips and his team, he has built a production house that is tailored to the type of content he makes, right? And it's structured totally different than anything I saw talking to these TV production companies. You know, he doesn't have a development side of his production house, right? He has, 8 or 10 writers that sit in a room, sure, but they're writing stuff that's going to be, shot in a week. And the cadences are just totally different, right? And the skill sets you need and the way you structure the teams. What I'm really excited about right now, I'm really excited to going back and doing factory shoots. I really enjoy those. The audience loves it. The factories love it and are willing to foot the bill on it.
Oh, I bet.
Right? They're lining up like, and honestly, the hardest thing is going out.
So they'll pay you to do a tour of their factory.
Got it.
That's great.
And I have the numbers to show that they should be paying me a lot more based on how much product they're selling for me doing a factory tour. I mean, the guy that did the I don't know if I should say this publicly. Anyway, I've had
just use code names. Be like John Holmes.
I've had a sponsor of a factory tour say, you should have charged me double what you charged me based on the value that I got out of it.
Well, he should be fired.
Just get him to write that as a quote and then put that in.
Exactly.
Well, it's in my sponsor deck now. Yeah,
it's perfect.
I did that. Yeah. I did that. And so it's really quite good because I can get the audience is fired up about it and doesn't care that they're sponsored, right? They're like, this is awesome sponsored content. Don't care that you're representing this company and showing off their products because we're getting to see this cool stuff inside the factory.
Right.
I love doing it because I love getting to go to cool factories and I love really diving in and telling like it's like how it's made but done well.
I used to love how it's made.
I love how it's made and I hate how it's done.
Yeah,
it's lazy. It's really lazy television production. I'm convinced they
love that.
One camera guy, one producer out on location. They call up the factory and say, hey, do you want to be on television? They said one camera guy, one producer out there. They take a bunch of glossy, big wide shots of machines. Yeah. And then they come back and they do voiceover and techno music in the edit suite. And they just bang them out. And it's they've done 40 seasons. So it's a very easy moneymaker. But it's
like
so
easy listening TV.
Yeah. And what they're missing the most exciting parts of factories, which is the people and the stories, right? There are all these awesome people who are like, ooh, let me, you start asking them questions and they're like, hang on, I'm going to go get something, or let's take all the covers off this machine so we can see how it really works, And
but when they every so often there would be a person.
Yeah.
Was it that one or maybe it was another show?
I don't think so. I've never seen a person actually on camera.
Maybe it was like a how this business was built or something. I can't remember now. Because I love those as well. But this is the thing that I think the authenticity, which is a word that drives me crazy in the film industry because they are manufacturing authenticity. They're like, oh, it's got to be authentic, and you're like,
and what does that even mean when you're completely manufacturing the entire situation?
Exactly.
Around it? Like you've gotten rid of all of the authenticity, and then you're trying to recreate it.
Yeah, we're gonna make a reality TV show. Here's the script. It's like it's like that's.
I had this argument with an educational thing that we did, and I was asked to
I got a wee. I'll be right back.
Make the show with these guys, and they were like, well, okay, so and then at the end this happens. I was like, no, at the end whatever happens is what happens.
Yes,
we're working with kids. We're working with kids, and sometimes it's not going to work. Oh, we can't have that. I'm like, no, because what are you teaching the kids? I said, this is the very problem, the very essence of the problem I have with YouTube, is that all of the content is created so it goes bloop 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 bloop, and you're done, and nothing went wrong. And I was like, the kids. So kids get frustrated at the first stage where they go like, I got glue everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, so I was like, we got to be able to watch, got shut down. I had a literally screaming, hissy, McKay fight argument with one of these guys. And they're like, whoa, dude, calm down. It's just a kid's show. I'm like, no, this is a kid's education. Anyway,
this is the entire point of what we're doing right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I
get really excited when things go wrong during a Strange Parts shoot. When we're building something, if something goes terribly wrong, I'm like, yes, now we have a story. Because if everything goes well, we don't have a story.
Yeah.
Right. You did look like you were going to kill yourself
until
over that
something
ATM.
goes wrong.
That slot machine ATM though, you did legit look like you were ready to just like jump off the Golden Gate Bridge.
I was legitimately suicidal partway through shooting that,
dude.
Like,
no joke. Like I was cringing.
I missed
this. Which one was it?
I merged an ATM and a slot machine together to make a slot machine that you win every time. You put in your debit card, you type in your PIN number, and you select how much you'd like to win. Yeah. And then you pull the handle and you hit the jackpot.
Which sounds like a simple concept to me. And I bet you when you were thinking about it, you were like, oh yeah, two technologies that exist, just merge them together, bing, bang, boom.
We thought it would be a 3-week shoot.
Yeah.
And it turned into like a 6-month shoot. It was,
What? Okay, I got to see this. I have to see this. Because that's I understand. That seems brilliant to me. I'd buy that now and install it all over. I would be like licensing those things out everywhere.
He's such a happy person in all of his videos, and that was the first video series I ever saw him in, where it was like halfway through, I was just like cringing with him. Like when you were going through and you were trying to get the ATM to authenticate, and they kept selling you the shit that wouldn't authenticate, and you were just like
half of what happened ended up on the cutting room floor. Like I have probably hundreds of hours of footage. For
you should make video. Like behind the scenes at some point of that, because after going through all that trouble,
bad.
Like every time the machine would fry, like you'd put it together and power it up, and shit would start blowing up, and I'm just like, I can't even imagine what that feels like when you got that expensive. Because I mean, obviously. You have to have. It wasn't even the
cost at that point. I was willing to throw as much money as I needed to into that project. Honestly, the thing that was brutal was that I couldn't go out and buy new parts. There weren't any more parts. I was calling up. I have talked to every single ATM parts distributor in the nation who sells those parts, and they were like, "No, sorry, I don't have any. Like, good luck."
So you had like no conclusion or the potential of no conclusion to this.
Yeah,
and you were just like, "What the hell do I do?"
Right. Yeah,
oh my God.
And for the dumbest reason, which is like, I can't, we selected an ATM model that is short on parts right now.
See, if it was a TV show, they would have just
do you have the link
right?
for that? I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Can you throw it in the chat?
Probably just do a search for strange parts and ATM.
Oh, that'll
just
do it.
Don't do that on Bing with search safe off though. You might get something else. So do
Oh wow,
YouTube.
YouTube's doing weird things with the color again.
Don't ever search for ATM with search safe off. Just that's fair warning.
Really?
Yeah, don't do it. Just David, I already see your eyes. Just don't do it. You're gonna regret it instantly. Just don't do it.
So what's even more frustrating about this is that video didn't really get very many views. I'll post it in chat here, and then I'll post it in Skype soon, so it doesn't.
And that's the problem with stuff like that. Is you ever notice like the stuff that takes the least effort gets the most views? That seems to be a common theme across all of YouTube, regardless of what you do. So, like I said, I tweeted the other day, I said, I'd be a millionaire if all I did was every day make a talking head video shit talking Microsoft. Because every video I have where I just sit in front of a camera and just I'm passionate, like I worked for Microsoft for 15 years, I'm an employee, and I'm going to tell you why this fucking sucks. And I do that for like hardly any jump cuts, total production, shooting, editing, everything, 2 hours, and the video will get like 2.3 million views.
Yeah.
But then I'll do a video that takes like, an entire day of shooting, 2 days of editing, have a crew out there help me with like drones and stuff like that. And then it might get like 100,000, 150,000 views. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like I'm starting to see why there's so much shit content on YouTube, because people start figuring out that the harder they work, the less of a return they get. So they just go the TikTok route, which is just be obnoxious and make the easiest low hanging fruit trend. If something's trending, just grab it and make something about it and slam it on YouTube and get them views.
I did a numerical analysis of my channel. I made a spreadsheet that was all of my videos.
Nerd.
And then I ranked them in terms of so then they had all my videos, how many views, like how many new subscribers, and like how much money I made from AdSense.
So like your own analytics on top of YouTube's?
Right. Yeah. Okay. I just downloaded the analytics, and then I went in and I manually ranked with like a number scale, roughly how much time I had spent on them. Was it an afternoon? Was it a few days? Was it a few weeks? Was it a few months? And then I divided the basic numbers, right? Views divided by days, days spent making it. Yeah. And the answer is don't ever spend longer than an afternoon making a video.
Yeah. I've come to the same conclusion.
Goal. When you say making it, is that just the recording part? Is that
shooting,
recording and editing? Yeah. Okay.
Just shooting.
But I would argue it's the same attitude towards businesses, right? If you want to start a business, there are some really fucking boring businesses that you can get into and you can make shitloads of money doing it, because nobody wants to do that. If you just want to make money on YouTube, then absolutely. Yeah. But the thing is, if there's any kind of a creative endeavor, or the adventure is part of your adventure, then like that's the joy. The joy to me is the idea that I mean, I always joke that, I mean, I get paid to pretend to be someone else for a living. Like, that's just so much fun. Like, there's a lot of, yes, I could do other stuff, but this is I enjoy spending my life with the streaming stuff, the YouTube video stuff. You have to enjoy the process. If you don't, then just get the fuck out now, because you'll never be able to do it.
Yeah. And I've noticed this trend with all of my favorite channels where it's like, you can see them start out and they put a shitload of effort into stuff. And then they start figuring it out as they go, that it's more of a quantity over quality, and focus on trending topics instead of stuff that's just interesting to you. Yeah. And it gains critical mass and it just runs away. And I've done the same analysis on my channel. I didn't pull the spreadsheet stuff. I just used YouTube's analytics that were built in. But when you sort my top 10 videos that I've ever made, like the videos that got the most viewership overall in the entire channel's history, not a single video on that list was hard to produce or took longer than a day. Like every single.
That's not true for me. If I just sort by total number of views, my hardest videos are generally at the top. The stuff that I took months on.
So they gain momentum over time, basically.
Yeah, and they tend to be evergreen. Like, they don't necessarily gain momentum, but they get a lot of views straight out of the gate. And the best ones will have periodic spikes where they just blow up for no reason again.
Right.
And then they just get views, forevermore, right? They continue to get a trickle of views forever. The ATM, I think, honestly, I'm running into, like, I don't think I have the right title and thumbnail on it, and I've played around a bunch with it. Yeah. I wonder if I was getting negative, like if I wasn't getting very many views because of the slot machine aspect, because I wonder if either I was hitting like some gambling suppression stuff, or if people just weren't interested because they thought it was going to be about gambling. And so it's interesting because I was asking people on a Twitch stream the other day and what their favorite video was, because I'm trying to sort of just figure out where am I steering content. And by far the winner was the ATM video. And yet it has very few views on YouTube compared to, a bunch of my other videos. Like, it really hasn't done well at all. So one of my projects in the next month or so here is to hire someone to make some new thumbnails for it and see if I can reposition it and get it to take off.
Have you, Barnacules, you suggested to me this TubeBuddy thing. I freaking love that. And that allows you to go through the video and grab stuff.
It's been insanely helpful just for the tags alone. Just for the tags alone, it just saves you so much time, because normally without it, the way I research tags is I literally just type them into the search box and I see what the cache pulls up on YouTube.
I haven't used the tags at all. I guess
Barnacules, I got more bad news for you.
Oh God.
The YouTube director says tags are no longer matter.
I'm starting to kind of believe that now, because I think everybody
a lot of big YouTubers are not even putting tags at all on their videos anymore.
I've noticed. Well, I'm also of the opinion that I think that once you hit critical mass, once you're of a certain size and you have such a large subscribership, that you get such a huge initial hit of views that the tags really don't matter that much anymore. Yeah. But one thing I've noticed is new YouTubers that come along, people that don't put any tags on their videos, they never ever show up in search. And then every video that I click on that's a brand new YouTuber, they max out their tags. Like, you look at it, it's just literally just a mile of tags in there. So maybe it's one of those things where it's just diminishing returns.
Correlation, not causation, though, which is that if they know to work on their tags, they're also working on their thumbnails and their titles and their descriptions.
That's possible.
And so, they're already doing a lot of the other optimization stuff that does work. But
I mean, the other problem, of course, is that the easiest content for YouTube to sell is not always the best stuff to make, right? I mean, they're making their money off of so many, fails or caught on camera type stuff. You're never going to be able to compete with that. And I see, you see people trying to a lot of kids trying to up the game every time, and I just think it's a fool's errand. I mean, the question I guess I have is, where do you think it's going to be, Twitch and YouTube in the future? Or do you think there's other platforms that are going to be more sort of conducive for maker type content?
I think it's, I was going to say Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok until you said maker content, but it's probably Twitch and YouTube right now. Yeah.
But Aux, you were saying that there was good maker content though on TikTok.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the thing is it's got to be a minute or less,
time limited. Right?
So it's interesting to see more. It's more like highlights. Like, if you're especially on a maker sort of thing, it'll either be
the sizzle reel, the internet sizzle reel.
Yeah, like a time lapse, or quick tips like, hey, this is how I put this thing together real fast. I think it'd be really hard to make it your sole avenue, but I can see where it would lead to, just like Twitch has terrible discovery, right? You have to produce content elsewhere and send people to Twitch, or take your Twitch content and put it in better discoverable places. TikTok's the same way. It's super random, I feel like, how you get discovered, because it's just so organic. So like you can get lost in the noise, but it kind of feeds back and forth to itself.
I feel like YouTube there's always people that are trying to game the system, right? TubeBuddy is a great example of that, right? They're literally selling a service to give you a leg up on everybody else, right? So I think it's in YouTube's best interest, and because it's a living algorithm that's constantly changing and nobody has all the pieces to the puzzle, I think that anytime something starts getting gamed, they basically just silently shift it and they demote it. And tags would be a good example of that. I could see why they could, because I'm trying to think of like, why would you demote tags? Well, obviously, if everybody's using TubeBuddy to derive the tags, and they're using the tags that are just on the bleeding edge of being clickbait, and you have this entire generation of videos jumping to the top inorganically because it's people manipulating the tags, then what could you use as a different data point that they couldn't game as easily? And that would be the speech to text, right? If they do
and they're using that heavily.
Right. They have a whole closed caption thing to go through. They can pull with AI. They can pull all the phrasing out of there and everything, and index it purely by what was said in the video. And then you have a much more accurate search for the people that are looking for that content. Right?
I mean, ultimately, like YouTube's goal, like their recommendation algorithm goal, is to feed viewers content that they want to watch, that they enjoy watching, and that makes them come back to YouTube. Right, that's their goal. And so
stay
on YouTube, right, and continue watching. And so, the best thing that they can do is align what the viewer is seeing and the signals the viewer uses to decide whether they want to keep watching and what content they want to watch, is to align the recommendation algorithm to just use those same signals, right? And they're doing that more and more, right? So they're definitely looking at speech to text. They're probably doing image analysis on thumbnails, if not on frames within the video.
My guy definitely said they are doing
titles,
video
descriptions,
analysis.
Channel names. Right. They're looking, and then they're looking a whole bunch at user behavior, right? Of like, what did other viewers like this viewer do? Right. If a viewer like this viewer watched this video for a long time, maybe this viewer would like it too. Right. And so, they're really like the big metrics that everybody is talking about, and very credible, YouTube employees are talking about, are click-through rate, how many people saw the video on their homepage or whatever and clicked on it, and then average view duration, how long did they watch for, right? And then we definitely know that like what they do after that matters too. Did they leave YouTube entirely? If so, that's a bad signal, right? Did they stay on and they watch a whole bunch more videos after that? Then it was probably they liked that video, right? They watched all of this video and then they watched 3 more after it. That's a good sign, right? That's something that YouTube likes.
Like Linus has figured out, like one of the things that I've noticed Linus has figured out, I don't exactly know what he's doing. I've never actually asked him outright, but whenever you watch a Linus video, 90% of the videos that are recommended to you at the end and in the side are other Linus videos. And I find that YouTube's broken that up for channels like mine, like where there'll be 2 or 3 of my videos in there, but it's all over the place. But Linus has somehow figured out how to have a massive connection. Like the algorithm recognizes that if you like this video, you'll like this, even if they're a completely different topic. And I think a lot of that has to do with, it'd have to be like thumbnail analysis, because his face is always in a bunch of the thumbnails, similar styles. What do you think they're using to correlate that? I think it's just that he has a
rabid fan base who watches multiple Linus videos in a row.
So they're just monitoring what people's watch patterns are. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, that actually does make sense.
And a ton of content, right?
Yeah, because I'm trying to look at it from like an AI perspective. Like, how would you analyze, like predict what somebody's going to watch? But it does make sense. They have all the data of everything people are clicking on.
You just look at what people do. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Man,
it was fun watching him and you in the market. That was a fun.
Oh yeah, thanks. Too. Yeah, that was a wild adventure. Yeah. We probably should have done a little bit more preparation for that. It was a wild week.
Yeah, but that was kind of the fun though. Was it was just like, these like 2 nerds hanging out in the I loved it.
Yeah. That was really fun. Yeah.
Linus is always going a million miles an hour. That guy, he's a mover and a shaker, that one. Like, I don't know how much Red Bull he drinks in a day, but man, that guy wears like 50 hats a minute. Every time I've ever hung out with him.
Linus is about as old as I am, and I can't. There's no way
I can't keep up with that.
I'm just in awe of the team he's built around him.
It's
that's
Good
I
on
think
him.
above all else is one of his real strengths is that he's really good at building a team and
he's a Vancouver boy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they're like a family too. Like anytime you've ever gone and hung out with them outside of their work environment,
super cool people,
super close. Like you can tell like even Yvonne, like Linus's wife or whatever, she's really tight with everybody on the team, and they treat it like a family. Like you can tell it's like it is technically Linus's company, but you feel like they all feel like they want to be there. It's not just a job. It's like they go above and beyond because for them it's like a passion thing. And you definitely get that if you talk to them like outside of their shooting, like when if you go to conventions and stuff, of course they're going to be like that when they're in the booth, right?
Yeah.
But it's like when you go to dinner with them and stuff like that, and you see them, I mean, they are really tight talking, like huge dialogue going on, personal and professional. And I think that that's something that's really hard to do, to build something like that, like because all it takes is one.
Yeah, especially when you're grumpy like me.
Right.
I don't want people around me. I don't like people. The further away they are, the better.
Yeah, I think he does. That's the thing about Linus. He just I think he creates. I felt the same time. Every time I've ever been around Linus, I've always felt like very comfortable. Like I've always felt like I've never been. Yeah, I've never felt like there's some people that say they think Linus is like a little too hardcore and a little hooty snooty. But the thing is, I never had that experience with him. I mean, he's always busy. He's always doing something and redirecting his attention 1,000 times a second. But I've never gone to an event or anything like that where he hasn't just like stopped by to say hi or was like really cordial or came over and say, hey, thanks for coming, even though he was the one that brought me there. Like he's super, super nice guy. And I can see why people like working for him. But yeah, I do know the people that don't really know him really well that think that he's like, hoity-toity and snooty and everything. It's like, no, he's just determined and driven. Like there's
It
just
just depends on what day, right?
And,
I mean, it depends on, you run into people, you have your frame of reference is only that one moment that you met them.
Exactly.
Right.
And that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I've had people that met me said I was an asshole.
Around.
They said they absolutely hated me and I was an arrogant asshole. And I was like, what? Like I never a moment in my life, man. I kill myself every time I go to a convention to meet every single last person that I possibly can because I love it. But it's just every once in a while a person will get caught on the outskirts or they'll just miss you and they just take it the wrong way. And I think that that's just going to happen. And the more people that you have that know who you are, the more often something like that's going to happen at a low occurrence. But it's going to be more people, but still similar percentage. And it's sad when that happens. It does make me feel like really bad though. And like, I get a message from somebody and it's like, oh man, I tried to meet you like 20 times at this convention, but you never came over and talked to me. And it's like, well, I don't know who you are. There's like a million other people at the convention. Like I didn't know that you were trying to say hello. It's like, I didn't know that I was supposed to do that. And
I also feel like some people latch onto the fact. Some people know that, like, if there's 100 great comments and one bad one, that you're gonna read the bad one. Like, I feel like sometimes that's people's in. Is that kind of like, Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's times where you do that. It's like, for some reason, and I think that's why the news cycle rests on it so heavily, is that negativity gets way more attention than positivity. And I think it just stems from us being creatures where it's like fear is more important than pleasure. It is. It's like if you need to be afraid of something, you need to keep your eye on it so that it doesn't come over and eat you when your guard's down. It's like that mammal brain, right? But for pleasure, it's like, okay, well, my life's good, everything's comfortable, I can just sit back and relax, and life's good. So it's like you don't really focus as much as you do on pleasure as you do fear. Like a good experience, like a bad experience, you're all over it. And you're like, oh, fucking man, that Uber driver, like, hit a telephone pole and almost killed me and my wife. And I'm pissed off or whatever. But it's like the Uber driver that gives you like a really good ride. You're like, okay, 5 stars, I'm gone. Like it ends there. You don't send a message to the company saying, oh, this guy was so cool. And, the bottle of water was great. And the music he had on was fantastic. Like you don't do that. It's always the bad experience.
I've actually started doing that because of exactly that.
Nice.
I've started writing little things about, like, if I have a really cool conversation with somebody, great.
Nice. That's awesome.
But again, there's that weird kind of Black Mirror thing where you don't want to give bad reviews because then you're like, I don't want them showing up at my house and like murdering my dog. I don't want to hey, just going back to production for a second. Scotty, do you have someone else do your editing or do you do all the editing yourself?
Oh, good question.
So most of my videos have been edited by someone else. Right now I'm editing for myself, but I want to bring on some more editors again.
Because that may be my first foray into this, is to have someone to go through the editing, because I just feel like it's so time consuming.
I've never had
such a slog. Yeah.
Never had an editor.
I really like having an editor. I want to kind of switch it up with my editor. I didn't feel like we were growing enough together, and evolving the style and production values enough. So,
and was this all at a distance, or was it somebody local?
Yeah, all remote. Yeah, he's actually down in Mexico City. So yeah,
really?
100% remote. I've met him in person since, but like not until after working together for years.
And how did you find him? Did just like a Fiverr?
I found him on Upwork.
Upwork. Oh, really?
Hey,
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah.
That's another site I haven't heard of. Is that just like Fiverr but for more money, or
It's kind of a slightly less kiddie version of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
and like you can do longer contracts. So like Fiverr is kind of bite-sized chunks, and Upwork is like, I want to hire someone to write a piece of software. That's how I originally started using it, was to hire software developers remotely. And yeah, it works okay for editors. I mean, now I would just hire through the channel, right? I would just put out a call for editors, and
I see, but I always worry about that.
And then I didn't hire anybody out of them because I got bogged down in other stuff. But
I always worry about that because I feel like people have been incredibly kind and done a lot of just given me so much, like hours and hours of help on stuff, and I feel like I almost want it when it comes to an editor. I almost feel like I want somebody who can understand the whatever my rhythms and stuff, but also can cast a sort of an eye over it without being sort of there's no fan stuff there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Because I want to know what's not working as well, right? So
yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's absolutely valuable. The flip side for me is that I want someone who actually really enjoys the content and is willing to sort of learn to dive into the subject matter, not just the edit, right? So one of the challenges that I've had is, particularly in the like factory tour format, is them just like, particularly on B-roll, just using the wrong part of a shot because they're not thinking enough about how does the machine work and what's interesting about it,
right,
to make the right decisions. And so, in some cases, that's just been these really lengthy feedback cycles of like, no, not that bit 3 seconds later, kind of thing.
Okay.
And it's just really hard to get in a rhythm, or to build knowledge there over time.
I haven't been able to find anybody that can do my cringeworthy editing style. Like, I've kind of pigeonholed myself by making so much ADHD content where I record like 3 hours and use like 10 minutes of it. And it's all
you can totally teach someone to do that, though.
Really? And like get the same kind of feeling out of it. Just have them watch my old content and then be like, replicate this.
Oh, totally.
No, what's more important is to build a feedback cycle where they're submitting a rough edit. You give them notes on it, of timestamp by timestamp, like, no, this should be this way. No, that doesn't work. Yeah. Whatever. And then it's a learning process, right? So I basically took the approach that I had to code reviews working as a software engineer and just ported that over to working on edits with people.
That's clever.
So it's just an iterative process. And like, so I use a tool called frame.io where they upload the rough cut. And then you can come in and leave comments at a particular timestamp. And then you can have a thread on those comments. And then they can upload a new version and you can leave more comments. And so, we basically just do it like you would do a code review. And then eventually I hit approve. And I actually, like, the way I work with editors remotely, particularly when I'm in China, because I don't have really high bandwidth when I'm in China. Like, I often will only have like 5 or 10 megabits up at most.
That's my problem.
Sometimes a lot less.
Slow upstream.
Oh, yeah.
Kills me.
But why? I don't understand why it's so slow. What?
Or how do you get the video to them?
Essentially because of the Chinese firewall, like it throttles a significant amount of bandwidth.
Okay. So how do you get the video to them though for editing? Like, is it with that little bandwidth? Like, obviously you're not taking like your 4K, 150 megabit.
So what I'm doing is I'm transcoding to proxies, throwing those up on Dropbox, and then they work off the proxies. And so they never actually get the raw footage. What's that?
So you send them the proxies, they add together, and then you do the final render with the full res clips.
Which is which is how the films do the same thing.
Shit,
I'm so sorry to do this, but it is my father's 80th birthday, and I must.
Happy birthday!
Get out of here,
bro.
Yeah,
get out of here.
Scotty, absolute pleasure, man. I
likewise. I've really enjoyed talking with you.
Let's connect again, please, everybody.
Yes. That sounds great. I would love that.
You two follow each other over on Twitter. D Hewlett.
Yes. I just have. I didn't know you were on Twitter. I have you on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube, but I didn't know you were on Twitter. So yeah.
Let me make sure I'm following you too. I think I am, but let me make sure.
It's just
not yet. There we go.
Okay. I'm being called. Okay.
Pronouns. All right, get out of here,
dude. Thank you much. Cheers. How do I stop this?
Tell your dad happy birthday for us.
All right. I shall. Yes. Happy birthday, Daddy.
Yeah. Tell him happy birthday.
See, so I always wondered how that process worked, Scotty, because it's like I've had like friends, like I have a production company that's my friends, and they just came out for practice and shot some of my videos just for fun to have a reason to hang out.
Yeah.
But it was always like they were there, they had the footage, so they would edit it,
right?
And
they just
upload
took the card back with them,
and then I just go look at it, right? So I've always wondered like online, because I have very little upstream too, unfortunately. Like where I live, it's like I have a gig down, but I have like nothing up. And so I run into that same exact problem, and I was wondering how to get around it. So that's what you do is you take all the footage, you ingest it, you create those low res proxies, throw them up on a Dropbox or whatever. They grab them, they do their magic, and then send you back a cut, and then you approve it. And
so what they do is they save all of their project files from Premiere, on to Dropbox, and then I just open up. I can open up at any point I want and be immediately working with the project, right? And so their version just has the proxies, and mine has both the proxies and the raw. And so I can look at either. I usually work with just the proxies on my side too, just for performance. But whenever I'm ready, I just hit render, and then I upload the finished video to YouTube.
So I'm wondering, like, and you obviously don't have to answer this, but like, what's the cost, like, to do something like that, to have an editor? Because again, it's like you don't really know how much revenue you're going to pull in on a video until it's like gone. So it's like, what's an acceptable amount of money?
I think I'd probably rather not answer that directly.
Smart.
But the numbers work out. Like,
that's good. Okay, no, that's all. That's all I wanted to know, because my worry is if I did something like that, just because my performance is just all over the frickin' place, especially with what I do. It's like, if I have somebody come in and I'm paying them, several $100s or whatever to edit a video and put it together, and then the video just does not produce that back. That's going to be a problem.
So what I aimed for was, from the start, I'm going to pay an amount that I'm pretty sure I'm going to make back on the AdSense.
Okay,
and then, if it performs beyond that, because I was in the nice place of like, when I started YouTube, I had another company that I was getting regular income from that I really wasn't putting any time into.
So right,
I was putting in like an afternoon a month into it, and so I could take all the risk I wanted. I just didn't want to be in a really deep hole on Strange Parts, right? I didn't want to be in the red, but as long as I wasn't in the red, I didn't need to take a paycheck. And so really on the edits, like, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't paying more on the edit than I was probably going to make on the video.
That makes sense.
And that worked out. And we played with rates. Like, not all videos are created equal,
right, obviously.
Like, some are, if I shoot for half a day, that's a really different edit than I've been shooting for 2 months,
Sure.
So
because the editor has to factor in their like hourly wage. Like, they're not going to go through 6 months of video to make like one show and charge you nothing. Like, that's going to be a big commitment. Okay, I got that.
And so it's been a little bit of a balancing act. I've really only worked with one editor so far, and it was kind of a balancing act of going between sort of fixed price per video to like hourly. And there were cases where we sort of like said, okay, this video is way outside of the scope of what we normally do, so we're gonna like bump up the price or whatever. I had a hard time doing hourly with him just because it felt like it was hard for me to control costs when we went to hourly. And so I was really trying to get him to sort of bid me up front of like, okay, we know this video is going to be bigger. It's got about this much amount of source footage. Really, source footage, like, really the two numbers that sort of drive editing cost, if you kind of know what the format is going to be, is how much footage do you start with and how much footage what's the like final length of the video. And if you know those two things, you should be able to get a rough approximation of how much time it's going to take.
Because most of the time it's going to be scrubbing through the footage and like picking out the bits that they think they want to use and then putting that into a timeline, which is going to be the length of your video, right? So
and just like for us, we would, like, the first pass of scrubbing through and figuring out footage we wanted to use, like, in some cases we would end up with a 6-hour timeline, right? Of like an edited 6-hour timeline. And then it's like, okay, pare it down, right? And the process is like, okay, 6 hours, cut that in half to 3 hours, right? And that takes, 3 or 4 days to do, and then cut it in half again and cut it in half again and just get it tighter and tighter and tighter. And so the more footage you start with, the more raw footage you start with, the longer that initial story is, and then it's more and more work to pare it down.
That's always been my problem too. When I shoot videos, I'll fill up the memory card and I'll do so many start. Like now I just power the camera and just let it be like one giant freaking clip. Even when I'm moving the camera and stuff, I just let them run because I got so sick of having like 2,000, 30-second clips. And
I'm the other way. I'm moving back towards not letting cameras run for really long times and doing specific takes because it's an organizational problem. If you've got a 3-hour monster file, scrubbing through that to find the good footage is just a nightmare.
Yeah, I've never.
So I'm actually dabbling now with doing a slate on my phone. Actually, I should show you the slate right now.
So you can see the cut points or whatever. Okay.
You hold it up and you hit the volume button and it goes clack. And so that then allows me to tie a bunch of metadata to it of like what was a good take, what was a bad take, for instance.
Yeah, because I'm still doing the clap method. Like I'll just, if there's a big dead space in the video, I just do one of these and then I just go through the audio histogram at the beginning and just whack out all the empty parts.
It's helpful.
Yeah. But again, what if you're in a spot where there is no dialogue, but it's still really important? Now you just cut that out, right? So you end up having to go back and look through it anyways. It's just a big mess. I'm a really inefficient editor. I always have been. I've never, I've never taken any like courses or anything like that to do editing, which I think kind of lends to my real amateur looking format, which every time I've tried to change, people are like, knock it off. Like people like the fact that I'm a shitty editor and I'll cut things off like mid-word and just jump all over the place like I'm raging ADHD. People love that. And once they get used to it, it's hard to change that, right? Like I had a professional video, like a drone video I told you about, where I had a production team out there. They're flying other drones, filling my drone and putting in music and doing color correction. I'm like, what the fuck is color correction? I don't do color correction. And so this video, they release it and it looks like Steven Spielberg produced this thing. It's like 15 minutes of just hardcore music and like canyon flying and like rally cars spinning out and shit. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And every comment is like, this is a commercial. This isn't Barnacules. Why is this on Barnacules channel?
This doesn't look like you.
Yeah. And I'm like, but when I was out there shooting it, it felt like I was just being myself and doing my thing. Yeah. But the editing told like this completely, like it made the bar so raised. People didn't know what to think of it. They were, and it wasn't like it was like bad.
I think
it was
that's a challenge for a lot of YouTubers is like, how do you increase the quality bar while making it still feel like you?
Yeah, and be careful not to raise that bar too fast because then they'll hold you to it if you can't maintain it. Like for instance, this guy, I go out and buy like a $3,000 like nice camera and everything like that, and it takes I got to do color correction and raw and all that. But then I just shoot on this thing and I end up getting more views. And it's like smaller, easy to maneuver. The video looks, exactly right.
Is that an RX 100?
It is. Of course, it is.
That's what I shot my first couple videos on.
I love it.
Best sensor ever. The sensors in these things are like magic. They're just magic, and
they're just too fragile. I've just beaten the crap out of mine, and they're.
I'm shocked actually at how durable this thing has been. I have like it's like a satchel essentially, right? And I've kept this in the water bottle holder. It's just a net pouch on the side. And I thought, oh man, I tossed this into the freaking carry-on over thing with that on the outside. And the back screen's a little beat up. But otherwise it works
the crap
perfect.
Out of mine. Mine's
as long as it's turned off and it's in its stowed state, it's fairly indestructible. But if this lens is out and it's powered on,
that.
Oh, really? Man. Oh, the one I have, dude, I dropped it 3 feet on the carpet and it broke completely.
I mean, you're doing international travel and shit too. That's so I imagine there's a lot more bumps.
Dropped mine from like, a selfie height.
Yeah.
More than once. And that's not so good for it.
Have you guys seen the new GoPro, the GoPro 9s? Holy shit. Like, why is anybody buying pro cameras anymore? Like, this GoPro 9 shoots 5K out of the box. 4K 60 frames per second, 1080p 240. It's got a Sony sensor in it that looks like, literally a better sensor than what's in this $3,000 camera right here. You can buy them for like $400 or $350. And they even have like an algorithm now that like distorts the video, so the fisheye effect that they get with the really wide angle.
Yeah.
They now have all the algorithm. It corrects for it without appearing to lose a lot of resolution. You don't get that weird soft focus out at the edges. And so I've been seeing more and more people shooting on these. They're waterproof without a case now. The microphone in them is like fantastic. So like vloggers have adopted these things like everywhere now just because they're so cheap and they're so durable. Like they can survive like a 200-foot fall. Like it's wild. They're just, I even ordered one. It should be here in the next couple of days. But I just look at those, how small they are. It's like, maybe a third the size of this. Yeah, and it's packing all that functionality into there. And I'm like, and it even they have interchangeable lenses now for them that you can buy and stick on them. That's another thing they just upgraded. But I'm like looking at that and I'm like, man, I see these people like Linus that spend, $150,000 on a camera rig. And I get why they do it, like because 8K of resolution gives you a lot of cropping and stuff like that. But still, the file size is gargantuan. The memory is super expensive. It's like, just buy like 1,000 of these and throw them away after each use.
I do think like for some of the content that like like Linus does, that's a little extreme. But when you have somebody like Corridor Digital, those guys do near Hollywood quality stuff. They're shooting in 6K all the time because they're also which blows my mind though, because they'll work, their workflow is all 4K. Like they'll work in 4+K like in editing, and then they'll go and scale it down to 1080p for YouTube. It's like because like you know,
why aren't they outputting in 4K on YouTube?
I think some of their stuff is, but there's just no point really, because most people are going to end up watching it in 1080p or less anyway. So
like, I upload 4K everything. Even when I shoot 1080, I up-res it to 4K, and for the simple reason is, and again, I haven't verified this, but I'm thinking it's future-proofing it. Because when everybody has 4K TVs, the platform is going to be like, whatever your TV is capable and whatever your bandwidth supports, that's what it's going to try to send to you, just like Netflix and Amazon Prime Video, right? Well, so I want to make sure
also higher bit rate.
So that's right, too.
So they give much more bit rate to 4K. So even if it's 1080p, like at the end of the day, and it's upscaled, it'll still look a heck of a lot better.
Yeah.
It still blows my mind though that Linus uses the red stuff just because it's so expensive. Like he has that Black Magic camera that even has like higher specs than the red, and it's like 10 grand versus like 50 grand.
And I think he's been like pretty forthcoming about massively. Yes, my camera is overkill, and I do it because it's fun and because we're a tech channel, and like.
He shits on it all the time too, which cracks me up. It's like, how many people out there using red equipment are in a position where they bought it and they can just shit on it, right? It's not a sponsored thing or anything. He's like, man, these menus suck. This is a piece of shit. This cable costs $400.
Not that many people own red cameras,
right? They don't.
Right? Like the industry all rents that stuff, right?
I think
What's
too. When you start working in a higher quality like that, you have to have the hardware that's capable of editing it. Like if I could save up enough money to buy a freaking Uber camera, but then I'm going to have to upgrade my PC to be able to even look at the footage.
Yeah.
I couldn't even scrub that stuff without waiting 5 days.
And not only that, then you have to spend time in color correction. Like your post-production just becomes,
insane,
exponentially more
difficult,
time consuming, and costly. I was shooting in Vlog in flat color profiles and stuff for a while, and we were just spending so much time in color correction, and it didn't look that good because neither one of us was that good.
That's why I never use this. I've used this for like 2 hours.
Yeah. And if you shoot in Vlog, it's much more sensitive to lighting, and so your lighting has to be better. And so we were shooting in Vlog in these factories, and really we would have to bring in lights, which means we've got to have more people on the crew, and that changes the factory's willingness to let us in, and it's just this cascading thing that at the end of the day we said, let's go back to just shooting standard profile and not doing all of this because we don't need to. Nice. And it's not getting us the results we want. It's getting us it's getting us further and further away from what is actually core to telling the story. So
I tried going the pro route with better equipment and stuff, and I aborted and went back. Like this literally was my attempt. I bought this and I had a $600 or $800 Sennheiser wireless mic setup, and and lots of light panels. I have Aperture Lightstorm stuff. I still use those though when I need to.
Yeah.
But the thing I realized is with this, it's you have to know all the settings to get it, and the depth of field and all that. Nothing's automatic, right? It's you have to tell it what you want. It's bigger, so it's harder to position, like this over stuff. And moving around, I started to realize really quick, especially in editing, because of the higher bit rate, and having to go in and do color correction and stuff like that. I was it sounded really cool to produce a better result. But then I started looking at the stuff that I was making with it, and I was like, God, my content looked better when I was just shooting it on green box mode on my camera, where it just adjusted to whatever light and white balance I had in the room. And it just looked great, and I didn't have to worry about the camera. Because when there's something like this looking at you, that's the other thing I noticed too, is when you're shooting video and you're looking at this versus, the smaller camera like this, for me, it's I don't know. I feel because I'm shooting with this, I owe it so much more than when I'm just looking at this.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. It's the equipment dictates how I'm acting.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. And wireless audio now, I actually went backwards. I went from $600-800 Sennheiser to these Rode Video Mic Pros that are this big.
Interesting.
Yeah, you just clip them on. It's so tiny you can just Velcro it to the side of your camera, and you don't even have to run a lav mic. You just clip the damn thing on the inside of your shirt like this. And it sounds it's like 99% of what the Sennheiser is for like a third of the price, and you don't have to fuck with anything. Like there's no having to push a button to get the gain just right on both sides and everything. Nice. It just all works. And I guess that takes away, like, when I've asked people, because I've asked, like, you know, other YouTubers, like, why do you shoot in RAW and why do you do this? And it's like, well, they like the creative control. Like, it gives you more control in editing to tell a story with the color correcting. And, you know, with audio, the more audio you have to work with, the more filtering and stuff that you can do with it and still have it be viable at the end, right? But for me, especially with, like, stuff like auto gain control, right? Like, people that shoot audio professionally, there is no auto gain control because auto gain screws up your whole ability to edit out background noise and shit like that. But the thing is, I don't edit that shit out because I'm like, the background noise is just a part of the environment I'm in and what I'm doing. And as soon as you accept that, then it's like automatic gain control suddenly is like your friend, not your enemy. Yeah. You know, and it's like, but go ahead.
We have real audio problems shooting in factories because they're so goddamn noisy. They can be. Yeah, I bet. And so I've really, you know, invested a fair amount in nice, you know, those nice Sony professional belt pack wireless mics and like gone down that road. And it helps. I honestly, if I could spend another couple grand and on audio gear and like get better audio quality, I absolutely would in a heartbeat. Like
audio is more important than video, in my opinion. Like when I watch videos, like I will watch a potato video, like with the audio crisp, way more than I will like a 4K video where the audio is like, like that drives me absolutely batshit crazy.
But it's a pain in the ass, right? Like we've usually got 2 belt packs running into a Zoom H5, and I don't want to bring an audio guy with me. I want to just have one camera operator who's also running sound, and it's really hard for them to manage both the camera and all of the settings there and be monitoring, you know, gain on the mics and things like that. So it's still kind of an open question of like, I really want to talk to someone who's done like a reality show, like run and gun type.
Yeah, where the environment's constantly changing,
before.
Right? Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, and like I know they're not always running around with a separate audio guy, and so I want to figure out like how to get the rig set up for that. But you know, we're running like, you know, GH5, you know, bigger DSLRs and or mirrorless, I guess, and like that works pretty well for us. It's not the perfect camera. I'd like something that's better in low light, but you know, I want to be running like a real camera when we're inside. Sorry, it's like tethered for
dude. If you got those Sony audio packs, where's the A7S or the A7R, man? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, well, the problem with those is they don't have a flip out screen. So if you're shooting yourself, like you got to have an external screen on them. Then,
that's right.
And like, right. So I don't know. You know, I've looked at that, but you know, the GH5 has been great, and I don't love it. Like, it's got some serious, or it's not perfect. Like,
I know people that shoot
autofocus
GH5s.
sucks on it.
Yeah. Yep.
It's got absolutely terrible autofocus. It does really poorly in low light.
Yep.
You know, and then the rest of it's pretty good. And so yeah, I've had my eye out for a while on what can I replace it with. But now I've got 2 of them because I had one break, like catastrophic failure right before CES, the last CES. So I had to just go out and buy a new body because I couldn't get it repaired in time. So now I've got 2 of them. So I'm like heavily invested now.
You're like, you got all the glass and everything.
Format, so I don't know. Yeah.
At least you can get adapters for the glass for most frames and stuff like that. Yeah. So at least you don't have to rebuy all the lenses and stuff. Now that we've literally like killed everything that's not a topic, why don't we talk a little bit about recycling? Because that's something that I actually am really curious about.
Like glass bottles and stuff?
No, we were talking about everything. It's like, what? So let's say you have something that's like an electronic device that has like 20 different materials inside of it, right? And you want to recycle that, right? You want to recycle your circuit board. It has solder and flux and fiberglass and plastic and half a dozen other materials. It's like, what does the process look like for that to get recycled? Because like my recycling that I have for like, you know, just stuff around the house, I have to heavily separate it. You can't have any food on it. They said if you put food like in your bin, like it can throw away the whole truck. Like they'll just take the whole truck to the landfill and just dump it, and you'll lose all that because one person like screwed up and like stuck a chicken in there.
But that's like everybody. Like, come on,
so
somebody.
It's like how much? Well, I think they're trying to scare you, obviously.
Like, but, because like how many times
also,
are you gonna toss a can?
A lot of recycling.
Yeah. So that tells me that obviously if that's a problem, they have trouble separating like food from the plastic and stuff like that. So it's like, what does the recycling system look like? And like, what are we moving towards? Because we are creating more compact devices and electronics that have more materials in a tighter space. And now they're like gluing this shit together and putting hot snot and stuff over chips and stuff. It's like, what does the recycling process look for this shit going forward?
I mean, my take on it would be that really recycling is the wrong word to even be talking about here.
Okay.
Right? Because like recycling is the premise that you're going to take something and you're going to break it down to its, basic materials.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to melt it down or whatever, and then you're going to create something new out of it. And that, I think by and large, that is not realistically what's happening with the vast majority of things. I mean, hell, like what the heck is happening to our plastic recycling right now, right?
Yeah.
What was happening was that it was all getting shipped to China, right? And then theoretically China was doing something with it. Chinese government, like 2 years ago now, maybe, said, we're not going to accept plastic waste anymore. Period.
I didn't know. I honestly thought we were still shipping it over there.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was just plastic or everything. It might have been everything of we're just not going to accept recycling anymore. But the one that really hurt was plastic because nobody now knows what the heck to do with it. And so at least for a while, and I'm not super up to date on this, but a year or two ago, it was all just sitting in warehouses. It was, nothing was happening with it. And so the whole notion that like you recycle a plastic bottle and then it turns back into something, like by and large, that's not happening at industrial scale right now. Yeah.
Which, I mean, that makes sense because like how many of your plastic containers and stuff, especially like single-use stuff, is very clearly not like labeled for recycling. Like you don't, heck, most of your milk jugs and stuff and like.
Yeah, they're required to have the recycling symbol on them.
Right.
So they are labeled. But a lot of the plastics, well, there's a whole category of plastics that's just not recyclable, right? There's actually where I'm getting a lot of this info is from Precious Plastics, which is an open source project to make an open source plastics recycling line. And I actually really want to. I've been talking with the tribe here about setting up a Precious Plastics program here in the Pueblo, where we build out these open source machines. So they've got like a shredder, and then they've got like an extruder and a injection molder and like a couple different machines. But there's an entire category of plastics. I think there's thermoset and there's something else, but there's one category of plastics that like basically once you mold it, you can't ever melt it down again. Like it's a one and done.
Right, it'll like just burn. Like it won't even melt. It just basically burns and like off gases. It's like what are you gonna do? Recover the gases and like do all the chemistry to put it back? Like wow, you're in it so much money at that point.
Yeah. And then the other problem is even for the plastics that you can melt down, the quality isn't quite as good as if you get, virgin plastic that's never been melted before. Yeah. And the quality control on it's really hard. So it's hard to get, like if you care about the color of the plastic, controlling for that is really, really difficult. And so really, I mean, I think the real answer is we need to move away from plastics as a general purpose, packaging solution. And move towards aluminum and glass and reusables.
Heck, like even at home, I'm moving away from Tupperware, and it's more like even just for like food storage in the fridge, like it's all glass. We're moving completely all to glass for that.
Yeah, because glass is simple.
And so when we talk about electronics, it's like a 10 times harder problem, right? Because now we've got this, we've got a phone, right? That's got, what has it got in it? It's got glass, it's got aluminum, everything. It's got, all of the stuff in the battery, right? So all the lithium, polymer
electrolyte.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's like everything, right?
It's everything. It's got fiberglass in the circuit board. It's got all sorts of crazy metals in it, right? So we've got gold and silver and other things.
And different types of glass lead, too, right? So you have like the Gorilla Glass is like a bunch of different shit in there, right? It's not just pure glass.
And so you've got companies like Apple that are trying to pitch the notion that we can shred these devices and extract out useful elements out of them, right? So Apple actually requires Apple certified recyclers to shred all Apple electronics that come into their facility, regardless of whether they work or not.
Wow. See, that's bullshit. That's utter bullshit.
Yes, it is absolutely 100% bullshit. And then they turn around and they say, look at how environmentally friendly we are. We have a recycling program.
Because there's no way,
and it's like, well, what the hell are you going to do with a shredded iPhone?
I thought the pattern was supposed to be reduce, right? Reduce your consumption,
Yep.
reuse as much as possible. So if a device still works, sell it to somebody who can continue to use it, and then recycle when you
and there
can't
should
do
be
anything
one
else with
in
it.
between. Yeah, there should be one in between, which is repair.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh,
so it should be reuse,
reduce,
repair, recycle.
100%.
Right. And so really where we're going, and I really like to praise the wonders of China in this regard, is if you look at the electronics markets, they are masters at reuse and repair, right? So they will take in a phone, completely take it apart, test all of the parts, and then part those out to people who can sell those to people who are repairing phones, right? So you'll go to booths that only have 1 or 2 types of parts in their entire business. Right? They have the bottom flex cable for iPhone 6s and 7s, right? And they have, 2 or 3 color variants for each. So they're selling 6 things. They are all bundled up. They're tested. They're labeled. They're clean. They sit there and clean them all up. They're ready to go as repair parts. And those are, 1, not ending up in landfills themselves, and 2, repairing phones that would otherwise end up in landfills that can't charge anymore because they've got a broken connector or whatever.
But the problem is that's profitable for them, not profitable for Apple.
Correct.
So
Correct.
Apple's like, let's sell as many devices as we possibly can, and then let's make another device as quickly as possible to get somebody to buy another device that's not even necessary. Like, I could argue all day that you could skip 2 generations of iPhones like each time and still just get along just fine.
Of course.
So it's more of that, just prey on that I need the new shiny thing. And then at the very end, they have these phones coming in that they could just refurbish and resell because there would be a market for it. Hell, I sold an iPhone. I didn't sell it yet, but I already have a buyer for this thing, right? It's like, somebody's going to pay me $20 for like this little iPhone, 5 or 4 or 5. I don't even know. But it still works, right? It's like there is somebody out there that wants this for their kid or for their collection or something. So they could be fixing those things and selling them, but then they stick them in a shredder and you're like, okay, how much is it going to cost? Once you've shredded it, how much is it going to cost to get that back into usable material? And I guarantee you it's going to be a lot more expensive than just extracting the raw shit from the ground. And it's not going to be as pure, like you were saying. So,
well, and what are they going to do with things like fiberglass?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can't recycle fiberglass.
No, and that shit's
like,
nasty.
I don't think anyway.
No, because it's like epoxy filled and it's toxic. Like, the epoxy is toxic if you turn it into dust, right? The fibers can get stuck in your lungs and shit. Like, could you even imagine the factory that's shredding all these boards? Like, you got to have like a respirator on, because the air is literally just these little really.
You don't have to.
I guess you can do anything stupid once, right?
You gotta.
There are far worse things. The guys that I see grinding and polishing aluminum, those are the ones that I worry about.
Oh yeah, I've heard. I don't know the specifics. I'm sure you do, but I remember I bought a grinding wheel once for my garage, and there was a huge freaking label on the box that was added after the fact that said, "Do not use this on aluminum."
Oh, that's not for your health. That's for the health of the grinder. Aluminum clogs up the pores in abrasives.
I was wondering if it was like somehow toxic or something to grind aluminum.
No.
Okay, it's not good.
It just turns your grinding wheel all shiny and useless.
Got it. Okay, yeah, because I remember it was funny because they must have sold it and a bunch of people must have been grinding aluminum on it because it was like a total aftermarket Harbor Freight sideways, afterthought sticker that was like, do not grind aluminum. And I was like, why? Why am I not supposed to grind aluminum?
If you go into any community shops, they all have the same labels on their grinders because it just destroys the wheels.
Okay, I didn't honestly know. I was like, man, is this is this gonna off gas or something like that? Because I know there's certain metals you don't want to like I know there's certain metals you want to wear a full respirator if you're welding, like TIG welding. Yeah. Because they when the metal vaporized, like certain chemicals. Sure. Oh, no, it's galvanized metal. Don't ever weld galvanized metal.
Oh yeah, that's the real one. Yeah, you don't want to weld that shit.
Yeah.
So they call it like the welder's flu or something. Yeah. You get basically flu-like symptoms from it. It won't kill you, but it's real awful.
It's not pleasant, I'm sure. Yeah.
Do you know what the cure is for it?
No.
Drink a gallon of milk.
Oh, milk neutralizes it?
Okay, yeah, apparently, if you know that you've been exposed to galvanized steel fumes, you go drink a gallon of milk, and that makes it better. I don't know if that's a welder's old wives' tale or what, but that's
I know
reportedly what you're supposed to do.
I know that if you drink a gallon of milk, you usually throw up. I know that you basically like get lactose poisoning, and your body just rejects it. Yeah. Don't ask me how I know that for sure, but when I was younger, I did try to drink a gallon of milk because my friend was like, "I bet you can't drink a gallon of milk in an hour," and I was like, "Dude,
the gallon milk challenge."
Yeah, I was like, "I can totally do
it." I know one
like,
person that's successfully done it.
Yeah, so this is a gallon of water. I can drink this in 30 minutes. So I can drink a gallon of milk. No, by the time I got about 2/3 through the milk bottle, I was in the bathroom just turning myself inside out. And the weird thing is I love milk. I do. I love milk, but after that I didn't drink milk for like 6 months.
From what I've heard is that, and I have heard this is secondhand knowledge, but if you drink a gallon of milk and the milk is cold, your body can't heat the milk up to body temperature fast enough before you throw it up. And so you're throwing up cold milk.
So warm milk you might be able to keep down.
Well, it was less about whether the cold is causing you to throw it up as the uncomfortable sensation of throwing up cold milk.
Oh.
So acceptable channel in chat says, hell, in college I used to drink 2 gallons of milk in less than 2 hours and I was fine. Forgive me if I don't believe you. Wait, hold on. Unless you're shoe nice. If you're shoe nice,
I was going to say, who's that guy who eats glass and stuff? He could do it.
There are people that have a weird genetic flaw. It's not a flaw really, honestly, is because they literally don't get alcohol poisoning. They don't get sick from it. It just passes through. It's like their body can't absorb enough of anything that they eat that it becomes poisonous. So Shoe Nice can drink an entire fifth of vodka, literally shotgun a fifth of vodka and not even get noticeably drunk. And I'm like,
crazy.
And eat a whole roll of toilet paper, including the tube, live with no jump cuts. And he's fine. They call him the human goat. And it's there's no way you could do that, right? He took a bottle of, was it that ghost pepper hot sauce and shotgunned it. Because his bit was back in the day that he'd have people send stuff to his P.O. box, and anything you could send to his P.O. box that was a liquid, he would shotgun it on the channel. So people were just like,
is he still doing that stuff? What's
not as much anymore? But he's still around. I haven't watched his videos in a while, but he's not as hardcore as he used to be, obviously. Probably getting on in age, but some of the stuff he did should have killed him, but it didn't.
Yeah,
you should drink if you chug a fifth of tequila and you literally shotgun that thing, that should give you alcohol poisoning and kill you. There's no way to survive that all in one go. And he would just be still sitting there talking to the camera for another 15, 20 minutes. So it's how are you doing that, dude? But that was his shtick, and he was pretty good at it. But back to the recycling thing, I think you're right. The problem is not so much the recycling, but just use materials that are more easily recovered, right? Sure. Don't get rid of the fiberglass board, spend a little bit more, and use a different material that's not an alloy. That's not a whole bunch of shit mixed together, right?
It's hard for phones though, right?
Yeah, fiberglass.
It's hard for high tech.
Why are they still? This is a good question. Why are they still using fiberglass? And is it just price? Is that what? Because fiberglass is messy. No. It's chemically it just doesn't seem like it's a good process.
It's just, and I don't actually know if that's what's in the really high end circuit boards, but I suspect it is. It's a good material for it, right? It's rigid. It's they can have it really fine tolerances on thickness. And then it's not electrically conductive, right? It's the insulator between. So the fiberglass in the board is the insulator between various layers where the traces are, which is essentially it's the insulator between various wires, right? Various layers of wires, and gives the rigidity to the board, right? So it gives the structure, right? So in a really simple board, I'm trying to see if I've got any examples here. Probably not good ones. There's a layer of, there's a fiberglass sheet in the middle and then copper on either side, right? And they start with just a sheet of fiberglass with a layer of copper glued to either side. That's the whole board. And then they etch away what they don't want.
Oh, yeah. It also seems like a really terrible process. What
the chemicals are not great.
Yeah, to dissolve copper, that doesn't sound like a very fun chemical you want to work with every day.
I think they extract that because the copper's worth a fair bit. So I think they reclaim the copper out. But yeah, there's definitely some nasty chemicals there, and it's a process that uses lots of water as well.
Yep.
And so Shenzhen actually has gone through, this is fascinating, I think anyway. The city of Shenzhen decided they didn't really want the PCB fabs in Shenzhen proper anymore. That it seems like the idea is that they want to push all of the dirty industry out of Shenzhen and have Shenzhen become sort of like a design technology software hub. right? And then have the surrounding communities kind of be the dirtier factories. And so they've been really cracking down on dirtier industry there in a variety of ways. The way they went after the PCB guys is that they very selectively increased the price of water in very narrow neighborhoods. So they're like, this little neighborhood right here, we're going to up the price of water 4 times.
So they just priced them out.
And so they just priced them out. And and there's kind of this notion of like people see the writing on the wall and they're like, okay, like our time here in this building is limited. Let's go start a factory somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like Sim City,
So-
right? You don't build industrial next to the residential.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
that's-
exactly.
You fail every time.
Exactly. And so, a lot of the dirtier factories, your PCB factories, your fiberglass, things like that are getting further and further away from the city center.
Yeah, but it's like just the sheer amount of stuff that's just going into landfills right now is like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's a problem we
Yeah.
have to solve one. And I mean, the recycling for like you said, like aluminum, glass, the plastic is a hard one though, because it's like so many plastics look to the eye identical. Like as a matter of fact, like most of the people I know that like test plastics, they're literally having to physically scrape them or burn them to test the smell or test, mass spectrometer. And it's like, how do you do that when a bunch of shit's going down a conveyor belt into the blast furnace, right, to be recycled? It's like, how do you do that? And then what happens if a bunch of shit gets in there that goes by you and contaminates the batch? It just doesn't seem like it's viable, but they try to make it sound like it is. Like oh, recycling, it's going to save our future and everything. But it's like, is it really, like at the end of the day, once all this energy goes back into it and stuff, is it really? Like, so it does make sense to move to other materials for sure.
There's some evidence that it's actually the businesses that rely on selling plastic that are actually pushing the recycling narrative around plastic, because it allows consumers to guilt-free consume plastic things. So it's like your Coca-Colas of the world are lobbying plastic recycling, even though plastic recycling is essentially unviable at scale right now, so that we all feel good about buying that, plastic Coke bottle.
Yeah. It might be a smarter idea. Just like somebody mentioned over here, I do know that they take some plastics and they can turn them into biofuel. Like there are conversions for like PLA and stuff to like convert it into biodiesel and stuff, but I don't know how expensive that is. And I guarantee at the end of the day, it's still going to cost more than just like grabbing the shit out of the cornfield, or the E85 or whatever. Like it blows my mind. Like E85 is like the fuel they run in race cars, but it costs so much less than regular fuel in like the Midwest where they're growing all the corn and stuff that's getting made into it. You go there and
that's all because we subsidize corn, right? Like that's not because corn is cheap to grow. It's because the government pays people to grow corn.
Yeah.
Like
that's crazy.
Anything that's made out of corn is completely a byproduct of corn subsidies.
That's so crazy. Right? That is so crazy. So you're literally encouraging a market to buy something cheaply that the government is using your tax dollars. So you're paying for it either way. Like if they're using your tax dollars, it's like
all that ethanol and shit is complete BS, right? Like we shouldn't be doing any of that. Also, corn syrup is terrible for us, right?
That I know.
We shouldn't be eating corn syrup.
It's literally banned in Canada, right? Like Canada actually has a ban. Like it's literally considered like a toxic substance in food.
It's literally it's legitimately bad for you.
Yeah.
Like sugar is way better than corn syrup.
Carcinogenic, right? It's like it's super
I mean,
bad.
dude, just look at me. Obviously it's bad, right? I mean, it is.
Yeah.
Like I can attest to that.
And the only reason we use it is because only in the US, nowhere else in the world, is it cheaper than sugar because of the corn subsidy. If we got rid of the corn subsidy, everybody would switch back to using sugar.
That's
which
so
is
backwards.
Which is so much tastier anyway. Like you get those Mexican Cokes that are made from like cane are made with cane sugar. It tastes so much better.
Yeah.
Yes.
We went up to Canada, just brought a bunch of candy back with us because it was just so much better. Like I had a Twix. I had a Canadian Twix. And I was like, this is the most tasty thing like ever. Like what? It doesn't taste like plastic. Like I didn't realize our Twix is down here. It's like the corn syrup gives it a weird like sheen. Like a chewiness and a sheen to it. It's way better in Canada. Way better. Let's see. Let me get through a couple more of these super chats and we'll start wrapping it up here, guys. Let's see here. Henry. Yeah. So Henry McCants, thank you for the super chat. He said, wonder if MSFT started the stack ranking when being a startup was enact like a startup regardless of size. Oh, so like maybe they were treating it like a startup even with 120,000 employees. I still think it's a bad idea. I think stack ranking is a bad idea, especially when you're a company that literally, like, when they were doing bad, they were still making like $4 billion a year. Like, I think it's bad to screw your employees over when you're that profitable.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's just,
I hope
I'll never understand
no startups are doing stack ranking. Like, talk about a toxic startup culture.
Jeez.
So that'd be so terrible. Yeah. Good luck building your company to $1 billion industry when you're firing your rock stars and replacing them with new people you got to train up every year. And that was the shitty thing about it too, is like people, even if they didn't get fired, they'd leave, right? They would leave because they're insulted and they should be, and they leave. And then who do you replace them with? Like a brand new person out of college that's never done the job, doesn't know the source control system, doesn't know our IDE, doesn't know how we build out our computers, doesn't understand our policies. Like, you have to train that person. Like, we literally were told that anytime you hired an employee, you had to give them 2 months to pretty much just fuck off to learn and adapt into the system. Like, they weren't expecting.
It was 6 months.
Oh, was it really? Damn. So that was how much time? Like, you
did not expect productivity from software engineers in their first 6 months.
Oh wow. So Microsoft was actually like trying to push hard. But yeah, I just thought that was really odd, because like, you don't go to McDonald's and they're like, oh, for 2 months, you know, learn how to operate the fryer and all the machines and customer service and how to run the register and how to clean everything and sanitize. No, you get like 30 minutes to figure that shit out. Like, software developers are like pampered in that respect. But it is a difficult environment to adapt into. It. Nothing you learn at school is going to prepare you for a company's like collective 10 or 20 years of knowledge and shit coming together into a giant melting pot of how they do things. And Microsoft's really backwards. Like, I could go into an entire tirade of their source control system before they moved to Git. It was like seriously pasted together command line shit that took you the 2 months just to learn how to check shit into the source depot and how to build it. Like, it was terrible. Andrew, thank you for the super chat. He said, one person's trash is another person's treasure. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, Scotty, somebody asked earlier, they said, have you ever gone, I already know, I have to know the answer to this, and it's yes, but have you ever been dumpster diving before?
You know, I haven't really done a lot of that.
Really?
Yeah.
In China, dude, in China, I bet you every single dumpster has like $1 million of electronics in it. Come on, bro.
No, you do not understand the level of thriftiness that embodies the Chinese spirit. No.
Ooh, cool.
No, there are 5 people that have dove that dumpster already that day. Like, I've seen people dumpster diving, but no, like there's no way I got even a chance there.
Okay, gotta wake up early in the morning, huh?
Yep.
Well, the thing in Shenzhen is everything is worth something, right? To somebody, and there are very, very efficient, complex networks that will take whatever you have, whether it's. So actually, the apartment I lived in was next door to a trash transfer station, like a really small one. And the recycling buyers would park their trucks nearby. So the trash collectors would come by. So there would be these trucks piled high with like cardboard or like styrofoam or whatever they're buying. And so there's someone somewhere in Shenzhen that is buying whatever you have found, no matter how worthless it seems.
Wow. I wouldn't have guessed that, honestly, because I guess the perception would be because they just make so much shit, like literally they're exporting it by like the billions of the world or whatever, that they wouldn't really put any value on like individual little components or a broken device. But like you said, they fix that shit and just resell it, right? It's all
because there's this whole yes, at the very top level, the big factories won't care. But there's this whole other ecosystem of people that will come through and pick through that stuff, right? And legitimately the markets, like if you go into the cell phone markets, you'll find stuff in there that definitely came out of Foxconn that was like, these circuit boards, like they have the iPhone boards come on a panel of 4 iPhone logic boards on one panel. And if any of those boards are bad, they throw out the panel. Right. And so somehow those end up in the markets. Right. And you can buy them. Right. Wow. So I buy them as gifts for people. But, and I still don't understand. They say that they're for soldering practice, which I just don't believe. But you can buy them and they're priced as though somebody is definitely using them. Right. They'll have them panelized, but you pay by the individual board. And if you want less than a full panel's worth, they'll just pop them out of the panel. And they're expensive enough that I have to kind of pick and choose what I buy for gifts as people because you'll end up spending $10 for a panel on a newer model.
Yeah.
So but all of that stuff, it's worth something to someone. And there's very much this attitude of you can squeeze pennies out of anything, and
That's
people make
wild.
entire businesses just squeezing pennies out of, whatever they can find.
I guess the other thing too is because they have such a diversity of like cost of living over there.
Yeah,
that there's always going to be somebody who's got such a low cost of living that just making a little to them is a lot. Whereas you're not going to have that as much here in the United States just because of our, we have so many fixed prices on goods. It's really like if you need gas or something, right? It's like, where are you going to go and get cheap gas? Where are you going to go and get? I mean, I guess you could drive public transportation. Like you could use free transportation.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, but like, look at the trash pickers we have, right? We have homeless folks.
I gotta go, you guys.
Cans.
Hey, get out of here, man!
It's a little past my time, so I'm gonna get going.
Thanks
everybody for hanging out.
Duck out of here, bro.
It was great meeting you.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't want to get killed by the old lady. She's giving him.
No.
She's gonna stab you, bro. Here, hit disconnect. Get out of here. Get out of here before you're dead.
Like that. I gotta get going. It's past my time.
Get out of here.
I'll see you guys later. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
See you next week, dude.
Yep. See ya.
Yeah, he's got a hard cut off at 1. I tell everybody.
No worries.
I mean, you guys, anytime you got to go, man. Like anytime you got to go, let me know.
Yeah.
So that is interesting though that they just gather that all up. And then we were talking about like the people that are just buying stuff and reselling it here. So like all the shit you're buying on Amazon, chances are that's just some middleman, right? So that you're dealing with.
I mean, more and more, that's not just a middleman, but it's actually the Chinese factories selling directly. Right, because Amazon, like, I forget when it was, 3, 4, 5 years ago, basically opened up. It used to be that Chinese companies couldn't be sellers on Amazon, and then they basically just opened the floodgates, right? And it's when Amazon got a lot more chaotic, right?
Yeah,
because it used to be that it was all sort of through Western middlemen, and there was kind of, at least the people that were making listings were ostensibly English speakers, and like, and now it's much more of a free for all there.
And I've also noticed though that like the prices are a lot higher too, even though you can go buy it from them on like AliExpress, even though they're selling directly on Amazon here. It's like they know the market and they know they're going to get a lot more for it, so they're demanding that. Which I find is weird.
Partly that. It's partly that. It's like the shipping costs that Amazon takes. Like Amazon takes a higher cut than AliExpress.
That's true.
So you're seeing that pass through. There's also like they probably have to deal like with a higher return rate and that kind of thing. So like Amazon's much more like user friendly, and so that's like ending up sort of baked into the cost.
So you think at the end of the day they're basically getting what they would normally get out of it if they sold it on Ally, give or take. They're not just going super crazy.
I mean, I think Amazon's so competitive that I think you would see lower prices if they could. Right.
Yeah, you'd think, because they're going to move the volume. I mean, so you're probably right on that. Because I just found that it was weird that hand crank thing I bought was like, like $2-3 plus $1.50 shipping or whatever. But then on Amazon to buy it, though you could get it in 2 days, it was like $24. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit, that is a huge price disparity, right?
I think that's an outlier. I don't think that's normal. I was a little bit surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I know Amazon's had some really kind of shady shit happen. They're getting better. They're getting better at like stomping it down.
Yeah.
But there was like a whole like expose nationally. Remember where people were dumpster diving and like selling sealed cosmetics and food items and stuff that they literally fished out of dumpsters that like had staining on the product and shit. And they were cleaning it up and reselling it.
That stuff's right. That's why I was like, you were like, that doesn't happen in the US. And I was like, are you sure?
Yeah, it did happen.
What doesn't happen in the US is that we don't have the manufacturing volume that China has. Right. So the idea that you're going to go dumpster dive in a factory in the US, like there's just fewer opportunities to do that.
That's true. And plus, like in China, it's like if you have it down and you're actually doing it as a living, when they're putting the stuff in the dumpster, when the right times and days are to grab it, your product and you already have it lined up to sell. So you're
not even that. Like you've got a guy inside the factory, so it's never even ending up in the dumpster anymore.
Oh, really? Right? So okay, so these are like backdoor relationships. Okay.
Oh, of course. Of course. I mean, it's, like a lot of it is that, so Foxconn is the contract manufacturer for Apple, right? So, and there will be a certain amount of waste in any manufacturing process, right? Stuff that didn't get made properly. Foxconn will often represent, or the contract manufacturer will often represent to the end customer that, we destroyed X number of parts of this type because of XYZ, right? And they're supposed to report it. And so what often will happen is that they don't get as destroyed as they should have been.
So they're on the books.
Like,
Yep.
Yeah, and like to some extent, like Apple doesn't really care, right? Because it's not really interfering with their ability to make new iPhones.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think there's a certain amount of like blind eye turn to like, oh, that should have been destroyed, but like it ended up in the markets instead. And like, you know, like unpopulated circuit boards ending up in the markets. Like I have a hard time making an argument for why that hurts Apple. Right. Like,
right.
It's not like you're going to make I have heard some stories about people making new iPhones from them, but I just can't believe that that's happening at scale. I heard some crazy stories about people transplanting chips from a working logic board to a bare logic board, where there was like a damage to the circuit board but all the chips were good, and so they're transplanting everything over.
That seems like an insane amount of work for when you could just buy the component, right?
Like it is a mind-blowing amount of work.
Yeah.
And maybe they've gotten really good at it. I don't know. I think that was probably happening at one point, probably not happening anymore. But regardless, like I really don't think like that it's really hurting Apple's bottom line much, because otherwise they would have cracked down on it.
No, that's true. That's absolutely true. And I guess something like that kind of happened. Like when I think back to jobs I've worked at, right? I worked at a computer store, and it's like whenever we had broken stuff, we had a recycler that would come by and pick up all the computer components from like a bin in the back. And so we'd always go through this stuff before we put it out there, and the employees would keep stuff, you know, like, oh, this case has got a big dent in it or whatever. Oh, well, I can still get some use out of it. And you'd take it home. We wouldn't resell it, but you'd take it home. And I remember when I worked at Sears, people would bring in Craftsman tools because they, you know, lifetime warranty, and they just throw them in these big bins, like these big 50-gallon drums. And then once it got full, we'd seal it up, put it on a truck that came once a week, and they'd haul it away, melt it down, and make new tools. But every once in a while, somebody would bring in a tool, and it'd be like, it just had a big gash in it. Or, you know, it's still functional, or it'd be a ratchet that just didn't work in one direction or something like that. You just grab it and just take it home with you. You know, it's like people are doing that all the time, or we just take them out and just use them as shop tools for stuff. And nobody really cared, right? Because it's like, it's just a bin of metal that's all getting melted down and turned into new tools. So it's like, nobody's really caring if like, you know, a socket goes missing.
And it's not hurting the bottom line of Craftsman or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
not even.
It's, you know, to them, it's just, you know, it all kind of falls out in the wash, you know.
Totally.
What was hurting Apple and is interesting, and I think I can talk a bit more about it now than when I first discovered it, was there was a huge underground trade, underground movement. Apple was really struggling with people doing fraudulent returns and exchanges on iPhones.
Oh, okay.
So to the tune of $100 million a year. Yeah, like big numbers. And I think Vice wrote some articles about this. But basically, people were putting together iPhones that looked good, but didn't work at all. And the reason that they didn't work at all was that they were like a massive conglomeration of broken parts. So if you imagine like the iPhone that I built, if you imagine building the opposite of that, which is rather than finding all of the working parts, you found all of the broken parts. And you put together a phone like that, but cosmetically it looked perfect.
Hoping that they would just take it out of the box, it wouldn't fire up, and they'd just be like, oh, throw it in the shredder.
Yeah, and they would just exchange it. And there was all sorts of stuff about, you know, having the right receipts and the right labels on the boxes and like all of this stuff. And then a lot of it was happening overseas. I mean, I think it first started happening in the Hong Kong store, the Hong Kong Apple store, and very quickly they got very skeptical in the Hong Kong store. So if you buy stuff in the Hong Kong store, and I've gone down to Hong Kong a number of times to buy iPhones and Macs and stuff, and you get a different return policy than anywhere else in the world. So if you buy like an iPhone there, I forget what phones. I don't think I have any phones that I bought there anymore, but I couldn't take them into just any old Apple store to get them repaired. I had to take them back to Hong Kong to get them repaired.
Wow.
And that is only the policy for Hong Kong. Nowhere else.
Just
but yeah, they were
the
shipping these broken phones out to the US and getting people to walk into stores with them and do exchanges. And then I guess they were either then selling the replacement phones or sending them back to China, or I don't know what else. But
that's wild. But you know what the funny thing is? That's not like for iPhone, maybe that seems kind of like a new thing. But come to think of it, like this shit's been happening forever. Because I even remember
it was more the scale at which it was happening.
I guess the scale, yeah, but like
right, we were talking about like tens or hundreds of thousands of phones.
Yeah, it was a very organized crime. Like it wasn't just people coming off the street, which is what I was going to say.
Yes, And not just like, oh, there was a single organized crime group doing it, but no, there was an entire industry around it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the things that I took advantage of in some of my early iPhone videos are actually infrastructure that was set up to do that. And it took me a while to figure out that that was what was going on. But like, why else would you have a booth whose only service is engraving IMEI numbers on SIM card trays?
To be deceptive. That's it. Yeah.
Like,
totally get it. Yep.
No end consumer cares about whether their IMEI is on the SIM card tray, right? That's not like you have to start to think about like, why would anybody care about this?
Like, why would I alter the VIN
like,
on a car? Why would I roll back the mileage on it? Like, it doesn't affect the physical. Like, if you own the car, it doesn't matter. It only matters if you're selling it to somebody else.
Like, I bought iPhone shells, right? The outer case for the phone.
Yep.
Right. And there are booths that will do the laser engraving inside the case. Right. Like, well, who would possibly care whether it's got the right QR code inside the case?
Wow.
Right. There's only one person in the world that could possibly ever care about that. And it's Apple.
That's hilarious. Like, honestly, until you mentioned that, though, I never would have thought that would be like a profitable industry. But of course it is when you're talking about a phone that's $1,000, because you can go buy it and then sell the phone for $1,000 brand new and then build a shitty one, stuff it back in the box and take it back to Apple and double your money. Right. So it's worth the time investment to build a shitty phone. You know what this reminds me of is back in the day when other people, not me, would go to Software Etc. and buy a game, take it home, copy it on a bunch of floppies, and then stick it back in the box and bring it back and be like, oh, I need to return this. My mom wouldn't let me play it. Like, can I return this game? And then after a while, everybody was doing it, so they had to say no returns on software. And then same thing with hardware too. Like, I remember I bought when I was really young, statute of limitations, I think, have run out on this. I was young and dumb. We all did something dumb. And so I bought like a Diamond Viper graphics card, and I was putting it into the computer and I was using it. I was just messing with it and I was taking it out and putting it in and stuff. Anyways, I ended up shorting the thing out and frying it. It wouldn't even post anymore. So I went and bought another Diamond graphics card because it was out of warranty. I couldn't return it. I went and bought another Diamond graphics card. Just swapped them over, right? Just like literally, they look about the same. Numbers are all different, but it doesn't matter. You take it back to the software store and you're like, oh yeah, I bought this, yesterday or a couple hours ago, and I took it home and it doesn't work. And they're like, oh, would you like a return? Or no, I'll just take my money back. It's fine. I'm going to do something else. And you used to be able to do that stuff like everywhere. Like you could do it with any item. You just go buy the new item, take the shitty broken one, put it. This is the equivalent of that, but just at scale. And you're actually building the broken item. Like, you're purposefully seeking out the cheap broken shit to build the broken item in the first place, instead of buying it and having it legitimate.
And then going through an incredible amount of work to make it look like it hasn't been opened, it hasn't been touched in any way. Like,
that is just that's ludicrous.
I mean,
that
some of the stuff that you can buy, like the details, and you talk to some of these guys and they're like, I had the best one, I think, is the guy, repair technician, who I don't think engages in this business, but he's sort of like nerdy in the right way. He said he bought screwdrivers that were smuggled out of Foxconn off the assembly line that are special screwdrivers that are supposed to not leave any scratches on the screw heads, so that when Apple opens up the phone and uses a microscope to look at the screw heads to see if it's been screwed with, that it doesn't show any evidence of foul play.
This is like literally forging Picassos. Like,
oh yeah. The level of ingenuity here is so high. Like,
it's just
so
wild,
ridiculously high.
It's wild to think that.
And I have so many of these stories that I haven't been able to tell, right? Because like, I can't even talk about this on my channel, right? Because it just like, I don't want government officials looking at it. I don't want guys in the markets looking at it. Like, I don't want to be the guy that's like outing all the secrets and then all of a sudden is a convenient target in the markets. You know, I would like, and so there's all this stuff. Someone said I should like save all this and write a book like 10 years down the road.
100%. 100%. That would be a top seller. I'd read that. And I'm not even a big book guy, but
there's
I would
so
read that
many
story.
cool stories of just crazy shit people are doing, like, and I mean, it's stuff like you can buy a shipping container of iPhones from the US, right? So like the like AT&Ts of the world that have like all of those warranty and trade-in programs on phones, where the hell do you think those go, right? they're generating hundreds of thousands of phones out of those programs, or millions of phones out of those programs, right? Yeah. And all of those things get basically just thrown in a shipping container, and then they go to the highest bidder, and I guarantee you the highest bidder is always Chinese, and they get shipped off to China, and then these guys are importing containerfuls, and now the problem is that the Chinese government is saying you're not allowed to import used goods anymore, so they import it to Hong Kong. And then they smuggle it across the border, right? So you've got guys like driving across the border with trunks full of broken phones or broken screens.
It's wild.
It's just
that
nuts.
Profitable to do all that, though.
Oh, wildly profitable.
It's like the drug cartels, right? It's like your
wildly
profit margin has to be tens of thousands of % to take that risk. And
wildly.
That's wild, dude. I know. Until you mentioned that, I never would have guessed that.
Profitable. It's so profitable. I don't know why people aren't doing screen refurbishing in the US, because the equipment isn't that expensive and the payoff is quite high, right? It's not a business I want to run, but
replacing dead screens, or like
basically taking the glass, the glass off broken screens. If the glass is broken, but the LCD still works underneath it.
Yeah.
You could basically just replace the glass and redo the optically clear adhesive, the lamination on it.
Oh, okay.
And there's a huge refurb business in China for that.
Yeah, because a replacement screen for like a newer device, I mean, that's expensive. I mean, that's going to be really expensive, right? So if you can just take something that's almost free and redo it, even if you have a failure rate, it doesn't really matter. You're going to still profit.
The glass is like $2-3, and then it's you got to have some equipment. You got to have. I showed it in the iPhone video.
Yeah,
I showed some guys doing it, and you basically, it just takes some manual labor. You got to strip off the broken glass, and then you got to be really careful about redoing the. You don't want to get any dust or anything in it.
I wonder if that's what the guy was doing that was replacing my screens on eBay, because I had basically I had 3 devices that had broken screens. I kept going back to the same guy because he did a really good job. There's a guy on eBay and he always was cheaper than everybody else. And the way it works is you just bid for a replacement screen. I did it for a Game Boy Advanced. I did it for my little OBD2 car programmer thing, like my Cobb access port. Yeah. Because Cobb wanted half the money, 50% of the money to replace the device, which was like $350. This guy's like, "Oh, I can replace your screen for like $40." And so you do buy it now, $40, you put it in a box, mail it to him, and then it just comes back after like a week or two, and it's like brand new.
Yep.
And so I'm wondering if that's like what he was doing to keep his prices down, because I was like, God, I can send you a Game Boy and you're going to replace the screen for like $30 or $40 and send it back, and it's like brand new and has a new cellophane thing on it and everything. I'm like, dude, this is awesome.
And he's probably turning a tidy profit on top of that.
Yeah, he'd have to, right? Because I'd imagine that he gets some that he breaks the screens and stuff like that. And it's just, the profitability is wild on that. Andrew, thank you for the tip. Bazingas, he said, your thoughts on Nvidia saying a 360S will cut crypto mining by 50%, and then they come out with crypto mining GPUs. Did you hear about any of this?
No.
So basically, Nvidia is releasing a low-end graphics card because they're having problems with scalpers. All these people are scalping them or buying them and selling them to crypto mines.
I can't get a 3070 or 3080 to save my life.
Yeah, the only reason I got this one is because I have a buddy who works at Nvidia who sent it to me. So it's like that's the only reason this 3080 is here. I couldn't find one.
Yeah.
So all the crypto miners are buying them. So Nvidia's taken this new direction where they're like, oh, we're going to create low-end cards that are intentionally shitty at crypto mining, hoping that the crypto miners will leave them alone and go after the crypto cards, which are based, cheaper versions that crypto mine really well, and leave those for the gamers.
Yeah.
And so, like, why? I mean, they're purposefully crippling a card.
The low-end ones are for the crypto miners?
No, the low end, the 3060S is the cheap gaming graphics card that sucks at crypto mining.
Okay.
Like they literally nerfed it on purpose so that it doesn't hash well for crypto mining. And they're claiming, and this is a bullshit claim, I'm sure that we're going to find that out. They said that there's no way to hack around it because the way it handshakes with the BIOS and everything like that, like it will not, if you try to crypto mine on the card, it will immediately nerf itself and not allow itself to crypto mine at like 50% speed.
Okay.
So yeah, good luck, right? Somebody's going to crack that firmware in like 5 minutes. But it's just odd that they're kind of going this direction. It's like, this is the first time I've seen, well, actually, that's not true. It's not the first time I've seen it, but they're purposefully nerfing one of their cards out of the box for the purpose of preventing a market from buying it. Like they're literally like they're slowing their own product down to make it more appealing to a certain audience and to take all the appeal away from the other one that's willing to buy every last one.
It's so ridiculous.
It's silly.
It's so ridiculous.
Hey, Scotty, can you give me just a minute?
Yeah.
I mean, go. Hey, you got the floor. Tell these guys where to find you and everything. I want to make sure that they all go and sub you and everything. I'll be right back.
Sure. Yeah. So my channel is Strange Parts on YouTube, youtube.com/Strange Parts, and I'm also streaming on Twitch these days, twitch.tv/Strange Parts. Go subscribe. I do really cool tours of factories and modify phones, and try and merge ATMs with slot machines and other crazy stuff. So go check my stuff out. Twitter, Strange Parts, Strange Parts com, Strange Parts com, because Strange Parts was taken. Check out my stuff. I don't know what else to say right now. We've been talking for 3 hours, so 3.5 hours. So yeah, there we go. Thank you, Ms. Liz. Yeah, I probably should head out soon here. I think I saw the dog on top of my car. Hang on, let me check.
Oh shoot!
He's hanging out on top of the car. Kicked him out a while ago.
Oh my god, that is hilarious, dude. He's protesting.
That's where he hangs out. Yeah, so he
goes for the high ground.
Yeah, just chilling up there. Yep.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, man, I am so happy that you got to join us today. I think that this was amazing.
Me too. This was super fun.
Yeah, you're welcome on anytime you want, man. Like this is just a big nerd out. We all get together and just talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about for as long as we want to do it. And it's a lot of fun. It really is.
It's awesome. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, thank you for having me on.
So all 555 of you that remain here, please head on over to Strange Parts on YouTube. Give him a sub, and more importantly, go over to his Twitch channel. You told him about the Twitch channel, right?
Yeah, I told him about Twitch as well. Yeah, Twitch and Twitter.
That's where live action happens, guys. No editing behind the scenes. Like
behind the scenes, shooting videos live. So yeah,
which is funny because you'd think that'd make you be more. Are you more nervous shooting a YouTube video or a Twitch video, or a Twitch live stream?
I think I'm more nervous on YouTube just because like the bar is so much higher.
Yep, I feel the same way.
Like every little bit counts, whereas Twitch, like it's live, so you just sort of roll with it, Yep. And I think you said the same thing.
Like, it's exactly the same. It's weird because
I've lost you. My headphones died. Hang on. What can I do here? This might be a sign. My AirPods finally ran out of batteries.
Which usually they last forever.
Let's see.
Here we go. It's getting on.
We get on wired here. What all do I need to change?
Dude, we killed a man's AirPods.
Oh, there we go. I got it.
Sweet.
I got it. Yep.
We killed his AirPods.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for me, Twitch is easier because there's no safety net. It actually makes it easier for me because I don't have to think about like the editing. Like when I'm shooting a video, I'm always in my head about like what the editing is going to look like and going through and watching it over and over again. Like you said, the bar is high, but like if you're doing a live stream, you can fuck something up like 12 times. And you just keep rolling with it and correct and roll with it and correct.
Right.
And it just, after a while, it just becomes second nature and you don't really think about it. It's like just kind of like you're hanging out with people. You're not trying to impress them. You're just hanging out with them.
Totally.
Time.
Whereas on YouTube, like I'll shoot something, as much as 30 or 40 times. I'll shoot the same little intro, particularly for intros. Yeah. Right. Like
that's my biggest thing. I've had videos. I think my record is 107 takes on an intro because I just, every time I did it, there was a small enough mistake that I'd do it again. And then instead of just editing together like 3 cuts and having a perfect one, I had to recite it perfectly. It was like an OCD tick.
Yeah.
And I just did it until I nailed it. Yeah. And God, I don't think people realize that even though you're shooting on a camera and you get to choose what's edited and what goes in the video, you still hold yourself to like a really high standard when that camera's recording.
Yeah.
And oh man, and sometimes the break
try
myself
doing
out of that. I
walking down the street in Shenzhen, where people are like coming up and peering around your shoulder. And there's like jackhammers running, and like, oh man,
shooting a vlog at like CES and stuff is impossible because people are always just like rubbernecking and coming over and getting in the frame and stuff. It's crazy. Hey Emil, thank you for the 50 SEKs. Yeah, we get some sexes on here. I forget which currency that is, but thank you for the 50 sexes. And Dev Angels, thank you for the 10 pounds. He said, Scotty, a friend of mine, Gamozo on Twitch has replaced an old printer ROM with a socket and dumped and modded the firmware. Ever thought of doing this type of stuff?
That's crazy. No, that hadn't occurred to me, but that sounds super cool.
Dumping and modding firmware.
Yeah. I don't know what I would want to change about a printer's firmware. I sort of feel like, I don't know, printers are one of those devices that I feel like there's nothing good out there. It's just it's just a degree of less bad.
Yeah,
And
for like
so-
photo printing, I just go to Walgreens now because it's like good luck getting a photo printer
Yeah.
that's going to compete with that
Yeah.
price and volume. Like you're just not.
You got it.
All right, guys. Thank you for
Got it.
stopping by on Tech Talk again, Scotty. One last time, thank you for hanging out with us today. And you guys, if you missed the beginning of the show, you can go back and watch the VOD immediately afterwards. I'll also put all of his links to his Twitch and YouTube down in the video description right after the show. And we will see you guys again next week, 10 a.m. Pacific time, right here on the Barnacules YouTube channel. And you guys have a wonderful one, and we're out.